problems with them. So, great. I love that we're all spread out around the table today instead of clumped. That's great. Okay, cool. So there are no comments to minutes. I'm going to pass out a unanimous consent. Cool. So we have friends here today, y'all. So I want to go around the room and let you all introduce each other. Say your name, your position, or why you're here, and your pronouns. So I'm Lily. I'm the speaker in the Senate. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, my name is Joanna. I'm a sophomore. I use she, her pronouns, and I just wanted to check out the SGA and I guys want to have my position clearly.
My name's Reese. I'm a first-year ambassador, he, him pronouns.
My name's Alex. I am the SGA, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a Cartoon Jones. SGA advisor, she, her pronouns.
My name is Brandon Liu. I'm the assistant speaker for Senate, and I use he, him pronouns.
My name is Jordan Troutman. I'm a senator. I use he, him pronouns.
My name is Liam Kim. I'm a senator. I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Kai. I'm a senator. I use he, him pronouns.
I'm Miles, he/him. I'm Patrick, senator.
Hey, I'm Jared. I'm a senator.
My name is Robbie. I'm a secretary and I use she.
Joe here from the UBC Transit.
Trevor is him, or he, him pronouns. Here to talk about Okamoka.
I'm Claire Jones. I work on my UBC, he, him pronouns. So thanks for having me so early-ish in the semester. I think one of my big goals is making sure that I have a lot of dialogue with you all ongoing. Sort of make sure that I'm sort of hearing what you are hearing as far as what the needs of my UBC are and how we can do things better. So just as a sense of, there's some faces I haven't seen before, how many of you are sort of relatively first, second year UBC versus senior, junior? So first, second year? So more than half, so that's cool. So the UBC you're using now is not, some of it, how many first years actually? Okay, so it's new for everybody versus last year. So that's and the seniors, well, you know, I'm sorry your world got completely turned upside down, but this is the internet and this is progress, right? Or maybe maybe it's progress. But I really just wanted to sort of come and sort of let you know where we are and what we're doing, what's going to be happening in the next year, just really briefly. But I really wanted to sort of maybe hear from you all about what's working and what's not working, so I sort of know where to direct our efforts, especially over the next year. So what you see now, can I just, you mind if I use your page? I'm not going to click on anything. I just want to load the page, mostly.
I don't care. There's nothing on mine that is like private.
Did I hit? What?
Is it like being weird?
For some reason, somehow they would click the single button and log you out of everything. That is.
I'm still there. My face is still there.
All right, there we go. Whatever. Yes, I'm responsible for the internet. That's my job. All right. Anyway, so we've got this new homepage, and you know, versus the last one, which was sort of this big long list of all these things from all your groups and stuff. Overall, thumbs up, thumbs down. How do you feel about the way things sort of hit you, middle of the road, ups, half and half? Now, the reason a lot of these changes happened was because there was a lot of conversation around campus that we didn't really show sort of the life and the community of UBC. You go in and you see a bunch of updates from some maybe groups you were part of, but if you actually weren't involved in a lot of groups, there actually wasn't a lot showing in the main area. It was sort of like a lot of wasted space. So we wanted to make sure we had, this, bam, there's stuff going on. And as you move down the page, we have this guide section, which sort of helps you sort of manage the sort of the part of your job, like you're a student or a staff member. As you look further, events, and then pulling in some community news. And thank you, George, for finally getting off the homepage. That was you were there for like 5 or 6 weeks. It was crazy. It was hilarious. So we made a bunch of changes to this, trying to sort of bring this back. And overall, the numbers that we're seeing from interactions on the homepage they're dramatically up. Like people are actually clicking on the spotlights, they're looking at events and things like that. So we're actually pretty happy that the sort of the community engagement is sort of up from this page. Now the problem when you get to adding a bunch of community engagement on the homepage, the sort of, well, you are here as a student, you have a job to do, register for classes, pay your bills. And so I'd actually really sort of be curious how hard or how much worse, or if we haven't made it, if it's neutral, the process of actually doing your job, registering for classes, paying your bills, degree audit, and things like that. How are you sort of feeling that transition? Yeah.
I mean, with that, I actually did struggle with that initially, but I feel like once I found out exactly where it was, so I think the initial struggle was difficult at first, and then we just kind of like, we found it.
So how many of you actually, you log in, you maybe click on guide and then click on classes and grades to get to the old MyUBC that's sitting there lurking?
But I was senior.
Seniors, yeah, so it's sort of hard because you have that pattern baked
Yeah.
into your head. The rest of you, how many of you actually use your profile to do things? The one with the little donut on it that shows your degree progress?
I check it, but I
Don't do anything
don't
through it?
connect with it this year.
Um,
But the new registration tab has helped a lot.
I won't look yours, but
No, I can look.
oh, okay. I just don't want. I don't want to pull up student
No,
data.
yeah, you're good. I can scroll.
She's volunteering, you're our witness. This is not violating any policy.
I think it's, yeah, so like this has been helpful.
So actually, this is one of the things I want to talk about. This is something new we're trying this
I can
semester.
navigate.
So this is sort of the first of what we're calling a step-by-step guide, where we try to sort of walk you through something that's either a multi-department or multi-step process that takes a period of time. What we sort of find is that a lot of students who don't necessarily, when they go through orientation, you know, they handhold you through that process, ran you through the library, get you registered, and then go off and do something else for a couple more months before you come back. But you have come here for your second semester, you have no idea how to register for classes. So we wanted to build something that sort of takes all the documentation, all the data. You know, they used to send you, I think they just sent you one that says, click here to go to this grid to find your time based on the number of credits you've completed. And that's in 2018 seems kind of silly. So, you know, we actually go and we pull it out and we show it to you in several places throughout this. Actually, if you go to, you know, there's our appointment right there. Everything's great. You know, we show you the different tools and when to use them versus dumping them into classes. Actually, if you look at the top of classes and grades, it's like 20-some links all at the top. You sort of have to know what they are and how they're useful. Not really a great experience. So we're trying to package this up, fill it in with live personal data as much as we can. You'll notice some pages like this are kind of slow because they're actually pulling stuff from things like PeopleSoft and other data reporting systems to try and make this really personal. You know, I'd be curious if you all have any reactions or thoughts about how this has worked for you, maybe.
I can give you.
Yeah.
So, I am a senior, and like back in my day, like whenever I was a freshman and a sophomore, you would have to go, like you said, to a grid that was like a PDF to figure out like when my time was, and then figure out like how many credits I had, to figure out when my registration date was, and then wait for an email from my advisor or to even sign an advisor. So like the fact that this has live information is really big for me. It's all one place. So I think that's been a big like proponent for me, even though it's harder for like me to get used to.
Right.
But I think like for students that are coming in and they're like sophomores, it's really beneficial.
Cool. So we're looking at the data of how people are using this, and we're going to maybe expand this to things like financial aid, housing, other sort of like study abroad, internships, those types of things that sort of require you to sort of do steps over time. We want to make sure you sort of know who you have to deal with and when. Actually, I think tomorrow you'll start getting a notification that if you haven't actually met with your advisor already and gotten cleared, you'll get a notification through MyUBC that says you need to go meet with your advisor. You've got a week until your appointment. And then the day before your appointment, we're going to remind you again, just to make sure, because it's really important, especially for the majors, especially like seniors, where your classes fill up really, really fast. And so we want to make sure you register as early as possible so you get into those classes so you can graduate on time. You know, we really want to try and get people out because it's sort of that horror story you hear, like I couldn't get to this one class I need and I had to be here a whole other semester or more years sometimes just because it's only offered in the fall or spring. So trying to minimize those types of things and make sure people are more aware. So this is something new. We're relatively happy with it so far, but we'll see how the numbers bear out. And if it makes a really big impact, hopefully you'll see more of these developed over time. Maybe starting a club on campus could be one of these. You know, walking through all the paperwork and forms and finding an advisor and things like that. So if you click on events, that'd be great. That's really help. So how many of you have looked at the events page? What do you think? Any thoughts? Yeah.
So when you click on the searching by date, it only takes you back to MyUC3.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the plan? Are you eventually gonna?
So eventually we're gonna move it all over into the new MyUBC. So I probably should have started with this. I apologize. I didn't write notes, and so I'm notoriously scattered. So the plan was for this year to get that start page done, right? Because that's the page everybody hits. That's the one. That's the big meal ticket. We wanted to make sure that one did what it needed to do. And we built a few pages out underneath it, the guide page, we built the events page, just sort of get a feel for how people responded to the flavor of things that we were doing and trying some stuff out. Because there's a lot of stuff new that we're doing both behind the scenes and on the front end. And so we wanted to sort of try this out and see how it worked. And then over this year, we're working on building out the groups pages. We're working heavily with student affairs to sort of make tools that work better for student orgs. But when those move over into the new MyUBC next fall, everything else will come along, and actually the old MyUBC will disappear. The topic pages will probably disappear as well as we come up with something different for those, and we're still working on the iterations for that. But right now we've been trying to transition. If you go to the guide now, we feature the profile prominently because we think that's sort of the future, how we want to manage those interactions for different things. Thank you. Yeah?
So for the events, is there any way to sort the events based off of groups that you follow?
So not currently, and so this is sort of getting to one of the things that I really wanted to sort of get into you all with, whatever, talk about today. So you'll be having, actually the free food category is the most clicked on thing on the events page. That should be mostly obvious, but I'm glad it's finding some utility. We're still playing with the categories. I wouldn't say we're 100% happy with the categories we have, but they seem to be pretty representative. The problem with the university is we do a lot of very different things, and it's sort of hard to put things in buckets, and inevitably somebody's going to be not in the right place. I'm not really sure where the debate team goes, or maybe Baja, but maybe athletics recreation, maybe not, I don't know. So you have to sort of figure out where some of those things go. Can we go back to the new one? So we'll be evolving this over the next year. The big thing I wanted to sort of talk about though today, if you go back to the home page, is, and you're a great example, is this beast on the left-hand side, right? So I don't know how many about you all, but I lose my mind when I see this many numbers, right? It's sort of that anxiety thing. I'm not, on the floor in the fetal, but it's not a great thing to log in and see. I've got 454 things that I haven't done yet, right? And then you have so many, we can just show 20 plus because it doesn't really matter what we show you because you're not checking them.
I have 474.
Right. So and if you open up your notifications there, we just show them all to you in a big old list. Now these are just the ones you haven't read. Now one nice thing is that if these actually were delivered to you in an email and you read the email, they would disappear from this list. So that takes care of some of them, but not everything emails you, right? And
Thank God.
well, that's one of the things we're trying to figure out how we do, because one thing we lost when we moved from the old homepage to this homepage was there is no way for you to see the things that your groups are sending you without clicking on that or clicking on one of those. And so one of the reasons this whole thing works is because you aren't logging in to see this. You're logging in to go to email and Blackboard. We know that from the data. That's by far the most clicked thing is your email and Blackboard. This year, Blackboard more than mail, surprisingly. But so we take advantage of the fact that you're just passing through to show you some banner ads, basically. And maybe you'll scroll if you're bored and see other stuff going on. So we take advantage of that, and so far it works relatively well. And hopefully you get something out of those ads, in that you sort of feel connected to the community, we let you know what's going on, and those types of things. But you're not, if you go to the trouble of following a group like SEB because you're interested in the events they're doing, you're not seeing them at all because you're not getting an email for them unless they send them as important or you said email me about everything. So they just show up in here. So there's been 34 events that you've never even seen and probably never will see, right? So we're trying to figure out how we sort of deal with that.
We thought about removing the notification after the event occurs.
Well, that's something we could certainly do, but not all of these are events. Some of them are just posts that people have done, like telling you Some of them, and so
Homecoming has gone mobile.
that's the other challenge. Some of them are stuff from your advisors because you're enrolled in a group like at College of Engineering and CNMS have an advising group that they automatically enroll you in. Some are groups that you followed yourself. And it's very hard for us to make a value judgment that some are more important than others, especially for you, right? So we try to leave it up to you to sort of make the decision to say, these are important and these are not important. The problem with that, if we give you the tools, the challenge is nobody uses those tools, right? Most people just leave the defaults and sort of go about their day because really where on the list of your life things is managing your MyUBC settings? Probably not really high, and that's fine. It shouldn't be, right? We want to make it so it's sort of painless. So this is what we're thinking about, and I'm just sort of curious to see what you think. Could I get you to go back to the start page?
Mm-hmm.
So if we put on our thinking caps, and you open up your notifications thing, what we're thinking is just having this up by default when you log in, right? And so that right-hand column would be hidden, and we'd wrap the content under, and we'd show you your updates from your groups right when you log in. And so that would be the default thing. So on a screen this size, it would probably look pretty equivalent to this. The little mini ads on the side would just be under here. So if you actually, take your browser. Can you make your browser a little smaller? So you'll see as you get to a smaller screen, these will wrap underneath. So imagine a page that looks like this.
And
right?
this is like my notifications.
And your notifications will be dropped down to the right of it. And I haven't done any pictures yet because I didn't want to we're still working through a lot of ideas on how this should actually look or work. Yeah.
Could like Blackboard notifications be on that as well, or is it just my UBC kind of?
So right now we don't have a way to get notifications out of Blackboard.
Okay.
But that's something we can look into down the road. We're in the process of transitioning. You notice how Blackboard looks different this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to look even more different next year. And so we're waiting for that transition to happen. Yes, this is welcome. It's all about the cloud, and everything's changing all at once. Great. You should hear the names that get called by faculty and staff. So, but anyway, yeah.
Billy, can you scroll down, please?
How far will you go?
So I'm wondering if that notifications bar goes away, how do you access your groups? Is it the far left?
Groups are in here.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is change this entire left-hand side. Right, the left-hand side would change to, oh man, I really wish I had a picture because it sucks. What we would simply do is we'd actually list start, guide, events, and groups, and then we'd actually list out the groups you're a part of. Right, because it sucks right now. If you do anything with groups, you have to go click on groups, go to the old nasty MyUBC, find your group in the list. And so we're going to give you a way to sort of see your groups on the left-hand side. And that way, the left-hand side is always the same, right? So we're going to simplify the left-hand side because that's something that people struggle with, how the left-hand side changes. And we want to change the right-hand side to be just your notifications. And just on the start page. When you go to events or when you go into the guide, it'll collapse back into the little number at the top. But the idea is to show you what's going on in your groups right away. Now, other things we're looking at is how many of you have iOS 12 on your iPhone, right? And they do the group notifications, right? We're talking about maybe doing something like that. So all the notifications you've got from a particular group get grouped together. And then you could expand that group and maybe just clear the whole group right from that screen, right? Now, one of the things we challenge, I'm curious what your feedback on this is, one of the concerns with letting you sort of clear them right from the start page is that, well, maybe you just clear them without opening it up. Or you just clear them and don't read them, right? And, yeah.
I mean, is that really a concern? Considering the student, if they care, should just open it up?
I would hope so. Now, so what comes back is from an administrator who's saying, well, we're using this to send out advising notices.
Okay.
And if they can easily clear them, they're not going to read their advising notice. Well, you're probably also sending those through email, and they have another chance to read it there. And if they don't read it in their email either, well, there's only been so much we can do to make people read the things we send them, right? Assuming we're all adults now and we can take responsibility for what we choose to read and not read, you know. But is it better to make it easy to clear that list out so it's not, because what I'd really like for you to, ideally when you log in, that right-hand column is visible, but it's empty. It's just like a squirrel in a hula skirt, you know, just saying you've got nothing going on, so that when you do log in, there's something there, like you have an alert or an invite to a group or an invite to an event or something, then it stands out more. And if it's empty, that just means you're up to date and you don't have to do anything else. You know, I don't know how many of you I sort of work on this model where I like to keep things empty, keep things at 0 as much as possible so that I know that I've done everything I need to do. But you know, not everybody works that way, because I've seen some of your inboxes and you know, the 2,000 unread messages sitting in your inbox. That's not how I should function, but
yeah.
But you know, to each his own, or her own, or their own. But
I like the squirrel.
so we're just trying to think of some things there. I don't know if the grouping sounds like a right thing. You know, just showing unread, showing all of them. I don't know if you have any sort of thoughts or systems you use that you like or don't like. Or if you just ignore the notifications entirely, you know, how do you feel strong? Because I think a lot of you represent student orgs in some way, or SEB. You know, you're trying to get the word out about things, and sometimes, you know, if you tell people follow our group to get this stuff, you want them to get the stuff. So I don't know.
Well, to be fair, you can already clear out like marketing tag group as read.
Right.
So I don't know if just by the virtue of being able to do that from the start menu too is going to be like that big of a deal, as in for that situation. And advisors, like if you had an ability where if advisors marked it as important, like maybe it'd be like, are you sure you want to clear this specific message, or like clear everything else? But I mean, it's literally just it kind of just went through and marked everything as read, so the notifications went.
I know how to
Yeah, so it's like the issue of whether they can do that from the start menu or going over to the notification side. Since the button's already there, it's already probably going to be used regardless of where it is. So I don't really think that's as big of a concern. But if you have like a secondary level of notification, like an advisor notice that says, hey, this has to be done at this point, or hey, you need to do this, and that was marked with the thing that you had to open up the event physically to clear the notification. You can't just clear it from the group.
Yeah, so I like that idea where you have, I guess, important flagged events that are more difficult to clear than other ones. But also, one thing that I also see happening, I guess, with somebody that you mentioned that doesn't clear their inbox is that the alerts will just all pile up or continue to pile up the same way, to the point where students don't really see what's important. So would there be any way to, or this would be a suggestion, but maybe show only the new events in the tab, and then the rest of the old events can be accessed through the bell icon, I guess.
Right.
So that way, you're seeing a lot less, and you're only seeing what's new, I guess. And that might condense it a little bit more, so that anyone who doesn't clear their inbox doesn't see like, oh, my inbox is still just super full.
Can I draw on the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Does this go up? Is there a button for that, or is that? Yeah, I don't want to yank something.
Yeah, no.
What time?
We have like half an hour.
Okay, good. I just don't want to run too long. Can you just open a new tab?
Yeah.
Or at least some way to distinguish new events from old events. You know?
So one of the things we're talking about, I don't know if you can sort of see this, is imagine I'm following SCB, right?
Right.
One thing we're thinking about is, I'll read it out. New event, blah, 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 posted, and then, you know, plus 4 more. So what we would show is we'd show a little card maybe or something like that for each group that you're getting updates from.
Right.
And so for SEB, you get the most recent SEB event post or whatever most recent thing they've done, and then there's 4 more there. You can click on this 4 more to open it up and see all of them, or you can click the X and just get rid of the whole card. And so you have 1 card for every group that has new updates since you last cleared it.
Okay.
So that way you sort of get 1. That way they don't. It's something we're talking about because one of the fears is that if we just show everything all at once, you just have this big long list and you just sort of tune it out because it's just this wall of stuff. You just, you know, but you can easily get to it if you're interested, and if you don't, just knock it out. So that's one thing we're.
I think it's actually a really good idea because, like, some people have been saying, like, on my OPC, like, with all the alerts that keep coming in, for, like, if you're part of, like, different groups, they kind of feel like the events kind of get, like, either, like, swallowed up or there's, like, too many notifications. Like, my roommate said, like, she's like, yeah, I have, like, notifications for, like, things that happen in, like, the beginning of October. So I think by doing like the 4 more, it kind of
Yeah.
lessens the like.
So something special for events we're gonna have when this new the new MyUC 4.5, whatever it is, I don't know. I do names all the time. One of the settings that's going to be available when you create content is to choose when the content gets published. So you can create a post on Monday to go be published Friday at 5. But then also say when people get notified of the content. And so the default we're thinking is for events. The notification of an event will be 2 weeks before the start time of the event. So if you need at the beginning of the semester to put your entire calendar in, because that's when you're doing your planning activities, right? Put the entire thing in, right? And nobody will get notified until 2 weeks before that event happens unless you change that date to when you publish. And that helps. And that helps stagger that out. And so things wouldn't even appear in people's feeds until that happens. One of the other things we're looking at is, so you get told about an event 2 weeks ahead of time, and maybe when that event shows up in your feed, maybe we give you the ability to say, I'm interested, right? Or sign up or something like that. We're still trying to work on the language. Facebook uses interested. We're sort of trying going here, but it's not really working all that well, so we're going to try and figure something else out over this next year. But then once you say you're interested in something, what we could do on that right-hand side, like right up below the alerts, have a little card that simply says, here's what's up next for you. Like, I don't know how many of you looked at the little apps, the square thing. We pull in like your latest events from Google Calendar. Doing something like that with events that you said you were attending. So here's events that you said you were interested in that are happening today, or maybe tomorrow, or within a short period of time to help sort of act as that additional nudge for things. Yeah, exactly. Pulling that sort of stuff right into that right-hand side so that you don't have to sort of get access to it. If you use, or actually our phones do this. I mean, really what we're trying to do is steal all the good ideas we can from phones and see if we can make them work in this sort of environment. Yeah.
So say you were interested in an event, an upcoming event, would you be notified of when the event started? Like it's happening now.
Or like a day before or something.
We can talk about that, and that might be a setting we want to sort of turn on or off. If you say if you actually say you're interested or sign up for it, I think that makes a strong case that we should annoy you about that. One thing we always try to be mindful of is you already get tons of emails from the campus about all sorts of ridiculous things. I'm going to try and keep that to a minimum, but that makes sense because you said you're interested, and you're probably not doing that to several events on the same day. So just getting one additional email a day that says, "Hey, there's an event happening," probably is reasonable to do. So, also once you say you're interested in an event, if that event gets canceled or gets changed in any way, you'll get a notification. That's one thing we want to add in. We want to make sure we're doing events right. And so one thing we're going to be doing in the next, I'm going to try and set it up this week, is set up a meeting with several stakeholders around campus who do a lot with events. So probably somebody from SEB, someone from the arts department, and sort of have just a sit-down session and talk about what sort of our dream list is for events so we can sort of take them to sort of a new level. One thing that, for those of you who haven't heard me rant and rave about the next MyMBC, but something that's going to be really big, I think, is going to be cross-posting. So the ability for one group to create an event and then other groups to pull that event into their group. Standalone. And that way you don't have to have 8 copies because it sucks when you look at the event calendar. There's like 5 of the same event happening with different times or whatever. So the ability to have one event and have that spread across multiple groups would be a big thing, we hope.
So as far as the event planning and changing, is that synced with 25 Live, or do you have to make a UMBC event post?
They're separate, and one of the big reasons for that is because the data is different between the two, and how the data is sort of managed. Like our 25 Live has has both when the event starts, but also when the setup time is, and sometimes that's distinguished, and sometimes it's not. And so what would be really awful is to say this meeting started at 5 because that's when the setup started, when really it should have been 5:30. And then there's just, that might be something we get to eventually. Just up until now, it's just been too big of a way to get the two systems in sync. But one thing we do want to make it really easy to do, and we've talked about this, is that when you put an event in 25 Live, after it was confirmed, the ability to send you an email with a special link that would import the data from 25 Live into MyUMBC, so it would pre-fill out the fields for you. And then you could change it to the appropriate times, add an image and other little sort of marketing type data that you want in the event. Because the data you're putting into 25 Live may not be the most marketing friendly, and so that way you can change it for the MyUMBC version. So.
What is 25 Live?
It's the scheduling calendar. It's where all the rooms on campus are in it, and so if you want to reserve this room, it has to be in that calendar so we know who's in that room and when.
I have a question. Yeah. So do you also work with the app?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So I have a question. So with my 4 starting, and I was thinking about the events. If you did say you were going, would there be a way that the app could send you a push notification, or you can get like a desktop notification through like Chrome or something?
Yes.
Okay.
So, so how many of you have the UMBC app now? Have you gotten any notifications? Did you get one just recently about registration, by chance?
No, because I think it signs us out after an activity.
It shouldn't sign you. You should still get the notification, but do you get any notifications from the app?
No.
Well, shoot. That's a problem. That would have been good to know. All right, well, let's figure out why that's happening. But you should, because that's why we built it. So we can send you in all sorts of ways. So in the future, right now, like when you get notifications from your group, you say whether you want to get them through email. You always get them online, but you can choose through email. Eventually, you'll have a push option for all your groups, but you also have things related to registration, billing, and things like that. And so, you know, we were talking about like event changes or stuff like that. Hey, an event's happening today. Getting those, anything that goes in that right-hand side for notifications, we should be able to send you a push notification about as well. That's really fun. That's why they're called notifications. So we want to get those in sync so that you can use the app as a general replacement. How many of you used MyUMBC on their phone this semester? Any thoughts about how to get around or how it looks or works?
It's pretty similar to how it is online, so that's helpful that it is in sync like that.
Yeah, that's one thing we sort of struggle with. Can you go back to a web page? You know, one thing that we really struggle with is this guy right here being a bit of a pain, because when you click on guide, it changes to the section specific to the guide. Now, on a desktop, that's great because you can see it all at the same time, but on a phone, all of this is hidden away behind the little menu thing, and so it's not necessarily obvious that the way to get around this part of the page is by opening up the menu because this changed. And so that's one of the reasons why we're talking about maybe changing this side to be uniform throughout, and then doing more to make the way to get around the sections as part of the main page, so it's a little more obvious. I don't know how many of you use Spotify or have used it for a while, but Spotify used to have everything in a little hamburger menu, and they recently changed everything to tabs, because tests show that if it's right in your face, it's easier to find. Now, it might take an extra click or two, but multiple obvious clicks are better than fewer less obvious clicks. And so that's what we want to sort of work to. And that's actually something you might see after Thanksgiving break. Like the notifications change and the change to the left-hand side, we'll come back on Thursday and we're going to move all your stuff again. But there's no good time to do it, so so we're sort of stuck.
Is there any way to integrate like the rider system into?
What's the rider system?
It's like the live tracking of UMBC transit.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Isn't Rider's a third party, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they might have an API or something we could integrate with. But we probably, for that, something to work, we have tried to figure out some way to sort of, for you to go in and say, these are the routes I care about, you know, so that we don't notify you of every sort of thing.
I think the background with that is that like there'll be times like where I'm downtown, I need to get back to UMBC, and I don't have like the schedule memorized, so you can like go online like through Safari and search it all up. But if we have the app for UMBC already, it might be easier to do something like that.
Or maybe even if I see you, Joe. Maybe even if like the schedules were integrated into something in the MyUMBC, so you could like interact instead of having to go onto Transit's page and open that up and look at the grid maybe. But Joe, what were you gonna say?
So we've asked the company to incorporate the schedule into a second page behind the app. So that will happen eventually, and I got more to report on that later.
But so one thing that we're So if you click on the search there, so just type SE or something, just to, well, sort of a word. And so you'll see what we're doing is we're pulling in actually results from lots of different types of things. Organizations, we actually do search for people in the search now. Organizations, FAQs. It's entirely possible that maybe one day you start to type the name of a route, and it can show here and maybe show the next stop time or something like that if we get to. But that's sort of how we would probably approach that kind of integration. Just load up the app, click on the search, type sort of what you're looking for, and maybe we give you like how you do a search for frog on Google. It's like, here's some images of frogs, and just like that. And so do something similar where we actually pull in some live data from systems. I wouldn't pray for it or hope for it for next fall, but it would be a great thing if we did. It's just that whenever we deal with a third-party vendor, it's hard enough for us to get data out of our own systems. Vendors gets a little more complicated. I don't know. Anything else? Pros, cons, good, bad about anything else that's going on? I'd love to hear it.
I don't know if it's a con, but it's more about the planning part of like the donut. I think like planning in general for like the classes is like very, like it's just very hard to find, and then it's very hard to utilize. So yeah, like no, like you see how it says like you're like if you go up and then you see the blue says planned, like you have to go into PeopleSoft somehow and plan it out, but it's very difficult to plan it, like to actually plan the classes you want to take for that.
So finding the planner is so that do you see that?
Yeah.
You can get is that problematic?
It's not that.
But
it's
when you
more
click
like,
on that,
yeah,
and get into people. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that one was a little bit harder for me to fix. If you can't find that link, that's on me.
Yeah.
If you have trouble using it once you click on that, yeah, we basically say it's like one step above an Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets or whatever. It's just there to sort of capture the data.
Okay.
And it's sort of the first time we're doing it, but we didn't want to go and spend like $150,000 a year on some special tool to do that if it wasn't really useful for people. But we'll. But I'll pass along. You know.
I thought plan was registered. I think I got them confused.
Well, they're wrapped. Well, in here we separate them out, but we sort of, as far as this list, unplanned, and then there's another section that says planned. We include registered in that. Just because you said you're going to, because any classes you take right now or sign up registered for spring semester, you're planning to take them. You can still change your schedule at any time. So, but how do you all think about the different sections of the profile? The degree, does this view work versus your current degree, the other degree audit? I don't know if you ever compare the two, if you like this or not, if you have any suggestions for these.
I appreciate this.
Has everybody seen their degree audit? Yes. Okay. Just make sure people know this.
So this one's like a lot nicer, just like visual like. But when it comes to like mobile, I still prefer the old version of just being able to like see what classes like I know I need to take.
Okay.
Versus this one where it tells you like what classes you've taken and like which ones you might need. But it's definitely a bit handy just look like, all right, I need this upper level credits when you're scrolling down. Okay. I mean, it is a lot, but closing off tabs just because I have multiple majors and minors, so it's useful there because I can just close out and say, I don't want to look at my comp sci right now, but I need to check my biology.
So we've actually talked about adding like another sort of tab to this list, sort of like task-based versus requirement-based. So do exactly that type of thing, so you can just drill down through that hierarchy, but present it like this and not all purple goodness. What about like the registration where it shows your current class schedule? I don't know if any of you have seen this. Good, bad. Is that I've never seen this before?
I've never seen this.
That's because you need to keep going to that classes and grades nonsense. That's it's all about the profile.
I clicked the guide to classes and grades.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, there was like maybe some kind of intro video or just like a quick blur you put out for like the changes that have happened, because I feel like a lot of us we do what we're used to. Right. So I'm definitely used to going to classes and grades. So just saying like, hey, by the way, a quick update from new UC. If you go to registration, you can see your classes without having to log into PeopleSoft. Right. That kind of
I mean, I would really love to provide a really nice tutorial experience. Jordan has seen how I work a little more closely, but like I don't know if you noticed, the events page for my UBC, the new UBC, didn't go up until like 2 days before move-in started. And that's because up until 2 days before I was coding the events page. Just things got really down to the wire because there's a lot of new crazy stuff going on behind the scenes. We're running in Amazon now, so we have 80 million servers at the drop of a hat. So it's just made it really complicated and different than the way we used to do things. So hopefully we won't have this problem, and when the new stuff goes live for fall, we'll have a nice little, you know how you something goes, you know, here's a little bubble that says this is this, click next, and it goes to a different place and walks you through, walks you through parts of the UI.
What's new?
I was like, this is interesting. I didn't even know I could look at old still alive.
There's 4 of them in there, I think, but it's there. It's not really 4, but you know.
That's how they're really.
That is really confusing. Yeah,
So this is on the classes and grades page. Did anybody know that?
No.
No, because there's like 20 other links in the classes and grade page and you never see it. It's the challenge we have. We have so many online tools. But right now, advising just goes to the old topic page, but we're eventually going to have everybody aware of your advising notes. So every time you meet with an advisor, they're supposed to log that interaction so we keep track of what you've been told. So if that advisor leaves or you change to a different major, we can sort of see your advising history. So that'll pull in both your assigned advisors as well as your latest advising notes. We'll eventually have a billing section will show your full transaction history. Our goal is to make it so you don't really have to go into PeopleSoft very often until you need to sort of perform a transaction. So you actually need to change your schedule, then you'll go into PeopleSoft. But if you just need to view it, you know, and one of the things we hope to do eventually is have a printable version of this. Like we used to do this actually really cool one-page printout that says, here's a campus map, and here's all of your classes. So especially if you're a new student, you can just print that out and walk around with that for the first week or two as you get your bearings.
Did appearance or did stuff change?
No, none of that stuff has changed yet.
Okay.
You know, little baby steps,
Cool.
grades, housing. We're working on getting under the housing. We found out there is a way we can get the status of the washing machines in the residence halls. So we're going to look into pulling in that, pulling in, like I think there's a combination lock for your mailbox that isn't really obvious, so being able to pull that in so you have access to that, maybe roommate contact information or something like that if you sort of need that. Parking, obviously we have a new parking system, and so what vehicles do you have registered in that? The idea is that you can go to your profile and look at all the little cards and get a feel for what's going on. So once a semester, maybe just go in and do a checkup, make sure all the data is correct, and then move on with your life and never really go to it again throughout the semester. Campus card is actually pretty popular, I think, for people finding their balances.
What do these mean? Trending new actions?
So these just take you to, so these are sort of views on that community section. So if you scroll down on the main section on the page.
Oh, sorry. I got really happy.
You're good. So these are sort of the trending stories. These are based on what people are pawing and reading. But if you click on these, you can see ones that the new, it would just show you the ones that are newly posted. Active would be ones that people are commenting on. But they're going to go away as we change that left-hand side, and just we're going to move those into tabs on the main view, so you don't have to click to see them if people care. One thing that's not here that we sort of punted on because of the changes we're thinking of making to the page is we're going to be adding a section to the home page on this right-hand side. If you scroll up just a little bit, above the register to vote, we're actually going to add a card specifically for the retriever, showing the latest stories from their group. So making sure that, you know, as the campus newspaper, they get some placement. We promised them we'd have it for the start of this semester, and we missed that, but it's now we haven't forgotten. It's just when we're thinking about getting rid of this whole right-hand side, you know, we got to figure out where we put it now.
Give them a spot before taking it away.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's really sort of all I have. If anybody has any more feedback, you know, so I'll give my standard sort of thing. I try to make myself ridiculously available. If you or any organizations you're a part of want to meet and talk about your needs, my calendar is open. BC Jones at UMBC. Feel free to put some time on. I'm happy to come anywhere. I'm happy to stay late or come to an evening meeting if that's what works best for you and your organization. Or you can just come by my office if you just want to chat. If you have something of your own that you just want to talk about, you can come by and we can sort of work through ideas. We're trying to be really receptive to sort of, ideas now while we're sort of in this process of building out this new section. So this is a good time to get in, because if you come to me in January with an idea, it probably won't happen for like 2 years. So this is your sort of window.
Where's your office?
Engineering building, room 125J. So, it's cool.
I know, at least for us, if you ever need like quick feedback on things or want to shoot ideas, if you send them to me, I can send them out to the Senate.
That's
and give
fantastic.
feedback.
So what actually, so related to that, I talked about changing that right-hand side, and so we'll probably just come up with some drawings, maybe what I'll do is like create a Google form or something, and then pass that along so you can just go and take a look. And since you have some context about why we're making the changes, you can sort of have an idea of some feedback and see if it aligns with what we've talked about today and how you use.
And then in the spring, maybe you can come back after some changes have been made, and we'll go back.
And you can throw some things at me. That'd be great. So I appreciate it very much for the time and give the opportunity, and please just keep it going, because I want to make sure we do some good things with this. So, cool.
Thank you.
Now you have a big squiggle.
We'll do it later.
All over your projection.
Thanks again for coming.
No problem. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Hi, Collier.
Okay, friends. Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Hello. All right.
Well,
Floor is yours.
so, I'm here with Trevor. Trevor here from UMBC Transit, working on the Open Upper project in concert with you guys, and the committee, and the classes, and some faculty, some staff. It is becoming a group effort, which it needs to become. So I want to give you a few updates, then ask you a couple of questions, and give you some opportunities for some volunteer work.
If possible, Trevor, can you give us like a quick rundown of Okamoka and how it came to be in your office?
Yeah, sure. So the whole project started a few semesters ago with this entrepreneurship class. So the idea was to have, how do we create a college town atmosphere in Rebutus and just the surrounding communities in general. So then we got this, there's a space on East Drive in Rebutus, right next to the haircutting zone, that we're thinking Okamoka. So the OCA, it stands for Office of Community Affairs, and that will be a permanent fixture in the community where we can work on just community engagement, you know, that with businesses. And then the front will be, that's the Mocha part. So it's a coffee shop, you know what a coffee shop is. And the middle space is where it gets interesting. So that's where we can have student meetings, you can rent the space online, but also the community members can do it too. So if there are groups in the community that want to use it, they can go on the website, call in, use the space to try to get the communities together more. We don't really have that right now. That's basically what it is.
And we're in construction, about to start construction now?
Yeah, so I'll get back to you. I got a couple of things ready. So in terms of construction, we have chosen a different contractor. I'm not going to pick on the last one, but this one is very transparent and has done some of this work before for community centers. It just feels much more like a right decision in terms of somewhat the feel, in terms of what they bring to the table. They met with the leadership committee on this and some staff, along with the owner. So the owner of the property is Steve Moran, and this is a family piece of business. The building was built somewhere in the early 40s. It's been in that family, I believe, the whole time. It was a factory, so it's got good bones, but it's been a number of things over the years. And at this point, we've demoed the inside because we found we couldn't work with what was there. There's too many violations, and pretty much that would just tell you how you would have to use it. So as Trevor mentioned, we have at the front is the coffee shop area. Behind that is a meeting space, a public area. Along the long wall, which is 150 feet long, we have gallery space, and then we have a few restrooms in the Office of Community Affairs. So, and then separately, we have some storage. So at this point, we're looking at Trident Builders to be our general contractor. And Trident has good remarks if you go look at them online, some of the clients, what they have to say. So Trident Builders. They're somewhat local. You know, they're within the region. Their office is pretty much in their home, but also downtown. I do like the size of their company. I think we're going to get the kind of personal attention that this project deserves. Again, we need to find a company because of the pricing that we're looking for, because we're looking for community center pricing. We want people to understand this is probably not the one that's the good profit takeaway. This is the one where we want you to come forward and help us. So, along with that, we've now located plumbing, electric, HVAC, window supplier, flooring supplier, and some finishes help. When it comes to the finishes help, I believe that's where we can make some opportunities available to our students. Particularly SGA, maybe some of the organizations that really just want to show up. And then the class, in terms of the class and some of the community. We don't know what to call ourselves anymore, but it's a group.
It's a big group.
It's a group. It's a big group. So in the budget, I'm not putting yet the $500 toward the labor for painting, which means asking students and staff to do the first level of painting and then the second final finish. I'm not going to the high elements. I'm going to have a contractor do the high elements. But yeah, anybody who wants to do this would have to sign a volunteer form like we've done for other things. But we'll keep you on the ground. That was really nice here. So, so that's exciting. Now the part that I think is even more exciting than painting is building some furniture. So we located a guy who's in the community, actually Gail Thorpe, he's the president of that association. He's pretty handy and got a carpenter who will assist with some education on how to do this. We have a supplier who's donating all the wood for the tabletops, Baltimore floors. And we have sundry things that I bought 15 years ago coming into play. So, you know, some of the stuff that came out of Flat Tuesdays and some from food service accounts, and we have bases for the tables. So all we have to do is just produce an interesting top. Now, along with that, we do have some wall finishes. I'm going to say you all, but students spoke up and wanted an area in that coffee shop for entertainment. So there's a corner that's going to have a stage. Along with that, you need to have some sort of backdrop that's interesting. So there's an opportunity there to do some more things with some wood. A flooring provider is at this point going to provide gratis all the porcelain for the restrooms, and is not going to upcharge us on the LVT, the luxury vinyl tile, which is great because it's a fantastic product. It's going to last incredibly long. It's nice and thick and very beautiful. So it's another wood look similar to this product here on the floor, except it's a little bit more rustic. And wider and longer, so it looks like a real floor. Now, there's going to be a whole lot of wood in the place. We're able to keep the fire marshal worked with us, which is really nice. The county's a friend of the project, by the way, so they're helping us with some of the code issues. We're able to keep the wood exposed at the ceiling level, which is it's absolutely gorgeous. That's now been clear coated, and I'll send you a picture of this. Beautiful red. So you'll have a red ceiling, you'll have a brownish, grayish, interesting floor, and then a whole lot of other wood that we're hoping to recycle that I think you guys will put your hands on. So I do have some pictures here. Before I get to that, because then y'all be looking at pictures. So we're working now also, so we have different work groups, different assignments. One thing that Trevor's working on is the website, and on the website we are going to participate with you and help you get the businesses contemplating being a red card sponsored business. Being there would be a discount afforded you when you visit. And that will appear on this Google map, and We want to be able to have the business update whatever special they want to do for the week. There's also the swipe piece, which actually you can spend money. There's only 5 businesses now doing that. There's quite the expense to the business to provide that. So we think the more logical approach to create this symbiosis here is to just ask them to give us discounts. So that might be your haircut discount, it might be your discount on your donut, on and on. So that'll be taking off here this semester. We're going to work with your leadership and figure out how y'all are going to help us promote this with the businesses, because we want to see some student feet on the street. At the end of the day, we're going to see hundreds of student feet on the street, hopefully, and transit is part of that. Our stop is right next door, and we will then, once we've opened that area, create the circulator that just runs from campus into the tech center and into there, leading to some future collaboration, probably with the county, in creating the Arts and Entertainment District Transit Unit. So we believe that's going to happen in the spring in terms of a designation, which means we're looked at as an anchor institution, UMBC, to make that happen. What it does is give the businesses the opportunity to get tax relief on some of their income, helps businesses provide housing for young artists, young and old artists. So, so we're hoping that that kind of takes off and that we have people moving from the community to campus to see our plays, to see whatever activities. Us going there and seeing, again, we're going to have a gallery. There's some sensational galleries on our route already that you might not even know about. So the arts and entertainment thing is, it will be an economic piece to this whole piece of business, and so is ours. As soon as we get students down there, we expect to see more businesses interested in whatever you're interested in participating in using. So build it and they will come in some regard. So we're looking to create some position descriptions and figure out how we're going to hire for some positions. So we're looking to employ students and people from the community, people from some work training programs from downtown, looking to the community colleges to help. So I expect that this is going to be very diverse in terms of which populations are coming in to help establish this. But we have to hire a manager and 2 assistant managers and help that business piece get moving so that we can be doing some training at the latter end of this semester. We're going to be opening the space in the spring semester, and construction will begin probably November 5th. If everything lines up. So the contractor will be meeting with our preferred list of vendors, verifying their numbers, making sure that we have a cohesive group that can work together and that things follow into the critical path of construction. So that's where we're at with that. So at some point we're going to be coming to you and saying, do you want to show up on Wednesday night? We're going to build some tables. What does that mean? It means we're taking wood, we're taking plywood, we're taking glue, we're taking somebody who's trained with a saw, and we're cutting some wood and putting all this together and eventually putting on that nice, beautiful epoxy clear coat, right? The tables probably will be beautiful, quite frankly. I've got one more stop to make for picking up wood. Sassoon Studios, Sassoon on the studio. I don't know, studio on Sassoon. I don't know what it is, but it's a local business, and they craft from aged wood and recycle stuff from their cabinet builder custom. They said they came out and looked at space, and we talked it through. They're so high end, they really can't do much for us, but they're allowing me to come out to their plant and just take whatever I want from their miscellaneous used over in the corner stuff. So that should be very interesting, because if you look at their SISSON, if you look at their stuff, they build some interesting pieces.
Studios on Sisson.
Studios on Sisson. wonderful people, very artistic. They're also looking for people to train. Just saying, you know. This is somewhat work-related in lots of different ways. He told me his frustration with getting skilled people to stay and learn the craft. I said, we've got a lot of students here who want to learn the craft. So I'm going to circulate these. I'm going to hold this one up. This is our pile of wood.
Jewish child.
Yes. This was coming off of the ceiling support structures. Gave the guys some money and said, please stack it over there as it comes down. So we did. So we've got, this is a lot of the same kind of wood here, but cleaned up and de-nailed, that's a big deal. It'll start to produce some of the wood that we want, because we're going to be using a lot of wood. Some pretty and some not so pretty. I'll pass these around. So these are pictures. Some of the space, I think you'll recognize the one that looks sort of rugged. That's where we are now. Some are some pubs and coffee shops in the area. And I was down visiting my brother-in-law in Charlotte, and he said, let's go on a tour. So we did. Saw a bunch of great stuff, and came to recognize that we can do a great job with this. We just have to have a little bit of expert advice, and this thing will turn out beautiful. Because it's a lot, it's labor intensive, but it's pretty easy to do. So, as those circulate, I'm looking to create some times, and I'll get with your leadership to try to schedule a few times. I think the work sessions will be around 2-3 hours, not a lot. Yeah, some weekend or evening things. You know, we have to have small work groups to work in on a table, so we have to break it up and figure that out. Some of this other stuff, like all this has to be cleaned and de-nailed, because I talked to Cecile and said, yeah, we've got a couple of older gentlemen who just come in and do that. I said, oh, pull nails. So I do have the equipment. So again, we'll look for some volunteers to pull nails. It's one of the first steps. Look at this. Yeah. We're going to reuse the. We're going to resurface the bar in Flat Tuesdays. That bar in Flat Tuesdays is still remaining there.
I can pull a picture of you guys.
Oh yeah. So we're going to redo the front of that, and that will occupy the space where we have the point of sale areas and the barista area right next to each other. So we get to recycle that. We've got some steel in the area that we can use for some support and some decoration later on. So let's see what else.
This one,
Yeah, no.
hold on. Let me.
And we're going to tell the story. We're going to tell the story of how we repurposed a lot of things, and to try to keep the budget within something that works. So in the budget, there's something that works. It's still quite a bit of money. Y'all were giving us $75,000 for the work. Again, that's you know, you guys here showing up and helping us the first time around when we got ready for the arts festival.
It was fun.
So it's been open for a day, in pretty tough shape, but you ran Sam, we had like 6 groups.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
And we had plenty of visitors. I'm not sure it was hundreds, but it was a few. So, all that being said, I'm pretty excited. I think everybody around that I hear, students are commenting, they're excited to see that it's got some legs now. We'll put up a camera that can take, still photography.
The time lapse kind of.
That's it. We do the time lapse thing. and get that posted on his website, right? And that'll be interesting and hopefully, gain some momentum so that we get good traffic down there to begin with. Plenty of work to do, plenty of purchasing yet to do, but we're at the point now where we can start to feel like we've hit a milestone. So that's my report.
All right, Senators, what questions y'all got?
Questions?
Does everybody want to go down and do some work over the next few months? I know I do. Can we like sign a table and then put mine on it?
I'm actually going to buy that engraver.
Oh, you're gonna have us like engrave it?
Yeah, so on the bottom of the table you write your name.
Wow.
Never mind, I'll help
So you said you needed tables then, and more paint?
Paint, yeah, two layers of paint, the primer and then the final.
Okay.
Tables, and then we're also some of this wood structure that was appearing in here also from the ground level, not up top. We got some really high stuff that I get a contractor to do.
Okay.
But yeah, so hands-on. The story will be this was your idea and you made it happen. And you are.
It was your idea and we helped. All right, Kai and then later.
So when do you need help? Like what days and time?
Well, we're talking, so, the question might be, are weekends going to be the only time that students are available? Or should we look at, like that non-going out Friday night? We are UMBC, so,
Probably, I liked the time that we did like Saturday. I liked the early morning feel into like the afternoon, but, because, I mean, we could even do like an SGA outing after or before or something.
Yeah.
We can get like a lot of buy-in, we can do like an outing after with the
yeah, and we'll get some pizza delivered and some stuff like that.
something like that.
So everybody likes weekend idea? Okay, we'll think about programming that. So this is, from now till like December, a few work sessions. Once we get to December, then I'll be able to figure out, what we have left.
Are
So on
instructors
this,
okay with us being in there? Are they okay with us being in there, construction wise?
yes, that was
Okay.
part of the.
I
part
know
of-
he
part of the
said he
meeting.
could like clean it up, but, okay.
Yeah. So when they leave, they're gonna, make everything safe for us to come in.
What did you want from this?
So I just want to let you know that, so like with this piece, that whole front, beneath the nice oak bar will be clad with wood. And hopefully, it has that nice.
We're just taking the whole counter?
Taking the whole counter.
How do you do that?
It's almost the perfect size. That's really a beast because, actually I know how that came upstairs. I'm thinking about cutting it.
Could you talk about does the Senate know how Joe's been involved with the Commons in the past? Can you give like the 2 second sentence split?
I got hired in 1998 to come do the Commons project, so.
Wow, really? I was born
I was born in 98.
I at least had a year, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bill, it was a great opportunity. It was, for me, it was like one of those career moves that I couldn't say no to. I interviewed for a position on the East Coast. Came from the Midwest, South Dakota actually, and has construction experience with that and student activities. And, so yeah, so building the departments and the facility was my request.
Institutional knowledge, yes.
So I don't know how feasible it is, but if for additional help, you could potentially reach out to the Honors College, simply because I know that there might be first-year students who need to do their 5-hour services and haven't done that yet. And since they need to have a service to pass form, you might be able to get some students who are Honors College, so like they will be they're pretty active, they like things like that. And for those who might be willing for service towards the end of the time, who might not be able to do a prac or another one, this might be a good opportunity for a group of them to come out and help.
Sounds really good.
So it'd be worth reaching out to Honors College.
That helps the story too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The story is going to be very important about this. Because you guys know that this is going to be talked about throughout the nation. Is what's being accomplished with your idea and passion that you're showing toward it. So yeah, we want to make sure that the story can be told, so we'll be doing lots of documentation and filming and stuff like that. Okay.
All right, what other questions do y'all have about open book? Could be anything.
Do you have a set timeline or like a rough idea of when it'll be open for business officially?
Well, I'll know more about the critical path issue from the construction management firm. If our providers that we've identified can line up in order, and if I don't get any flags from the county, our project is 28 pages of architectural renderings because we're completely starting over. Any one of those trades that we fail to make on the first time, we have a delay. So at this point, I just want to say spring semester. I've got one in my mind I don't want to say. Right, spring. So, and I think there'll be, I believe, enough interest generated that whenever we do open, I think we need to be, the people who are hired really need to be able to make a good product right off the bat, because I think we'll be slammed with lines out the door. So we better be good. So there's that also. We're looking for some trained baristas and then students that can be trained. My guess is, we'll post this through the careers site and elsewhere. But my guess is we've got 50 baristas here on campus probably. And then we want to blend the communities. So we have that whole piece of business that I'm pretty much the nuts and bolts on this. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I expect to see the media. I believe this will be on all the TV stations and so forth. It'll get talked about differently than even I'm thinking of it, because this is it's interesting how this kind of plays into the university story of only being 50 years old, but truly being without a college town reference for 50 years. So working toward building that with the community engaged. This is unique, and just like UMBC, it's unique, So I think there'll be multiple things said about this project and what other people can learn from us. So we'll try to do as many things correctly. I know we'll fall on our face on a couple things, but so be it. As part of the story. We will make the extra point though, because 222. What was it? 200? How many? I'm talking about the game. So the Ravens kicker he missed his first field goal. 200. I don't know. It's crazy.
But
so,
as Okomoko opens this spring, it's a good thing for those of you that will be here next year, or whether you're involved in Senate or not, to be spreading the word and putting meetings down there and taking Senate meetings down there. And, it's just a good project. Who else has questions?
and there's coffee. So what do you mean? Yep.
Okay, will we get a student discount on buying coffee?
Yeah, so there's most likely going to be the membership card, and the membership card that can go to the community also. So, and that eventually probably leads into you use that card to get on the bus if you're a community member.
Do you know how much the coffee's going to be when you open it up?
So, in terms of the business plan, I'm not doing that.
Okay.
My guess is going to be relatively competitive with what you would see at the Starbucks. And it, it's interesting how food service is being a helpmate at this point. We'll see if that stays true. Because they've donated some equipment toward this. They've actually donated a $12,000 piece of equipment toward this coffee shop. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a higher quality coffee because we're getting our coffee straight from the roaster. We're talking to a few roasters right now, Ceremony, a few other ones. try to get that down. So we hire quality for Starbucks, and hopefully get better price too.
And we're looking for a provider that can also provide other opportunities for campus involvement. We want somebody who's engaged in the community and has a history of working, successfully with large institutions, because it's a big deal.
So with the community membership card, can you talk about how that's similar or different than the red card program that you were talking about earlier?
So the community card will be a card that has probably a few different opportunities for use. It'll most likely, like I say, in time, be your bus pass, or if you're a community member. It'd be a card that would gain you access to some events off campus. Might gain you access to some things that haven't happened between us and Arbutus. Because again, it would be like a formative club where some events we haven't created yet, there would be club events. So opportunity for our students to meet our neighbors. So if you're a member, you're in. And there are plenty of larger meeting spaces in Arbutus to take advantage of: the fire hall, the town hall. So some things that haven't happened here before will happen as a club event.
Yeah, that community card will also be required for scheduling the space, so not just anyone can go in and use the space.
Yeah, we think that we would ask student organizations to get an identity card, so we know who it is, and the one for the community will also be card services is on board and will help us. We'll take the picture there and get a picture ID, because once again, our transit system is a closed system, meaning we want to stay safe. So.
All right, any other open questions specifically? Joe, I think we have a few transit questions if you're up for that.
Sure.
No? Transit questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram. It's vocabMD. I think we're on Facebook too.
Thanks for
Twitter,
coming.
posting updates.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Appreciate you. If any of you want to go to the open meeting with me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., you can see me and Joe and Trevor there.
One day I'll wake up in time.
All right, so transit specific questions.
How's the transit tracker?
Transit tracker is it's a little broken right now. Our provider has been the same provider. Did you know this? Did you guys help sponsor that?
I don't remember.
Yep. We gave $50,000 toward the first purchase of transit tracker back in the day. So the company has grown. They're now working with some of the major motor vehicle manufacturers. So in some ways, attention has decreased to their product and some of their higher end clients like ourselves. On the East Coast particularly. Again, since this is a satellite-based GPS, we need to have constant surveillance of folks working and not working for them to fine-tune. Because in this, whatever geography, you've got some issues that always crop up. And we know that we're not giving the kind of information that we're used to. So we've complained, we've asked for some help, and help hasn't been really forthcoming as yet. So just to let you know, I'm moving toward an ultimatum with the company. Going without a tracker at this point when everybody's used one might be a real problem. That's one way to address it till we get another provider. Throwing money at it might get their attention, and if we upgraded to everything to 4G from 3G, but we're half and half right now, and I can't tell you that it's only the 3G stuff that's got the problems. We have to do a little bit more digging and ask them to do some digging on their end. Because we're paying quite a chunk of money for this service. And when the bus isn't there, when it says it's going to be there, that's a problem. So you become reliant on it. And at this point, we're probably going to make a message to campus that says we know we're experiencing these problems. Hopefully, we're going to get support from some of the other campuses, particularly campuses, because that was their first market was higher ed, saying, you know, here on the East Coast, your service is not what it used to be. What are we going to do about it? So we'll try to put that pressure. We are looking. I got to say it. We are looking at other options for this because we have to. If they can't provide the service we need, if they just want us to throw more money at it, that's not a good answer. If we're going to throw more money at it, then let's look for something that's even more robust. I hate to use that word, but there are things that we could get that would enable us to have next stop announcement, disability, in terms of hearing and visually impaired, rider count that's automatic instead of having to swipe your card. There's lots of things that are out there. And this company is, again, have grown, and they're not what they used to be, quite frankly. I was dealing, personally with the president of the company. We were one of the first 5 institutions to join. So we got a huge reduction in cost because they really just didn't. They pointed to UMBC as one of their prototypes. And I'm going to let them know I'm very disappointed. But at this point, it's just going to be a conversation. No threats yet. But, it has to work.
I have 2 more questions unless anyone else wants to. Cool. How do we go about increasing transit options, like routes?
Well, you talk to me. We can talk about tweaking the routes we have, which can be difficult, because once you give somebody something, it's very difficult to take it away, just as you saw when we tweaked the Arbutus route. And that's creating some cost savings to help us do a couple more things. And it actually increased some efficiency because we increased the frequency of 3 route times, so that during a heavy commute. So we had to find that money somewhere. So we did what we think was the smartest thing, but once you inconvenience somebody's used to it right then and there. It's difficult. Anyway, you tell me what it is you want. I need to put it into the budget request. Hopefully the students are able to vote on that as a referendum, that I just don't put up stuff and say, this is what I need. No, it needs to be what you need, because you're paying for it. The only money that's coming out of the entity is charter income. But charter income is, who knows where that's at, because we're so new at it. That if we're going to create another route, such as the Columbia route, which would then provide there's about 1,000 jobs out there in the mall that would provide potential part-time jobs for students. Connects us with Howard County community. Leads us to the point we could connect with College Park transportation. So there's lots of pluses. We talked about it 2 years ago now. But I don't see us doing that without the student referendum saying that they want to do that for this fee increase. And that's expensive. It's not a lot in the single pocket, but if you look at what it costs to do something like the downtown route, downtown route is almost 3 times as expensive as a local route. The local route is about $100,000. So you can do the math. What's it take out of every student's pocket to produce $300,000? And that's graduates also. So that's kind of the question, and I posed it before during the budget. I'm going to put some feelers out and probably propose it again. There's more students asking about it. And what's interesting is I want to know why they're asking about it. because the intent of what that provides is something I need to know. Is it access to just more fun things to do and more shopping? Or is it access to more jobs? Is it access to home, to school? We did a population distribution and know that there's 1,000 people out there. How many people are driving cars to campus from that area that could just go to the parking ride that we would service and save that car coming on campus? That's taking away from all your guys' opportunity to park. So there's some trickle down to that, and quite frankly, I call it a tax. This is a tax, and that's why it needs to be voted on by the public. Everybody has to pay. Everybody can't ride. If everybody wanted to ride, we couldn't do it. It's just like MTA, and we don't necessarily want to get to the place that we're doing per ride purchasing. That is a possibility sometime in the future for some specialized route. To go here this day, it's more like a charter. You have to pay to get on board because we don't have any more money to do that one thing. But for this one, the frequency of it tells me it's probably around that $300,000 number.
Do we pay for the city transit buses that come through campus?
Yeah. So, but there is a student discount membership.
Well, yeah, I know that, but I mean, like, does the school pay for that?
No, actually, they were bypassing campus, and we'd had a good enough relationship. When we redid it, and they did the city link, they were bypassing campus, and we were able to go to some of their public meetings and say, well, that won't work for us, and they listened. So we have those stops that are here, and quite frankly, MTA has been a good partner. If you haven't noticed, we've got our bus stop signs out in the community now. So there's 85 stops that are now marked. Never been marked before. So UMBC is feeling its oats in some ways in terms of, we're important. So cool. The MTA is a good partner, but quite frankly, they've got to stop parking the buses down at Hilltop Road. My bus drivers are complaining. So. Anybody else saying that? You're using our Commons Drive to Hilltop as a layover. Now, a layover is where you're taking a shift break, you're getting off the bus and stretching, right? So there are those other buses coming right through, and we've actually had a double park. But for the most part, MTA is a good partner.
Yeah, and then so similar to adding transit, I'm assuming adding stops is also another kind of cost increase. What would that look like?
Adding stops is really not that tough.
Okay.
In terms of the cost. So that's one of those survey questions. We'll be putting out our survey again this year. That'll be one of the specific questions. If you are en route, is there a stop missing? Like you have to walk 3 blocks to get to it. Could we just stop sooner or later? Is there a market that people want to go to that we're not going to, that we can somehow work in? But once I get ridership numbers, ridership will also help determine the institution's feeling about transit. Because we surpassed 400,000 riders a while ago. And again, we're looking at reinstalling. If you're all riding, we're reinstalling the swipe cards. We had to find ones that could scan because of some technical issues. So you'll be swiping again. That gives us great information.
So one thing that I've heard was that on the first bus run, they stopped twice before leaving, and it was asked if they could make a loop around. I guess not a double loop, but just like a single loop around campus before going on their route.
Okay, that would probably be the downtown route, because everything except that Circus campus.
Okay, yeah.
It's possible it's going to add another 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
The only I'm not happy about the downtown route. That road's deteriorating, and we've had incidents on that road. Yeah, and, you know, it was one of those that we did, and then it went away because UMD was funding it pretty much.
Yeah.
When it went away, we just lost a whole lot of opportunity. So, and that was one of those that, again, it was like a student referendum. Do you want it or not? You know, do you want to pay for it? Glad we have it. I hate 95. Yeah, so when y'all vote, think about the road conditions, okay?
The Columbia route did pass 2 years ago, right?
The what?
The Columbia route being added to transit?
It's gonna come up as, again, as a debate topic.
Okay.
And they'll show up in the free request as, it's gonna be referred to as a referendum item.
Okay, cool.
But again, we'll do our population distribution, kind of give you some more ideas on what the benefit is.
Other questions for Joe? Or should we let him leave and set up?
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
bye Joe. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll make time for volunteering soon.
Happy day. You just want to give, if you can coalesce some dates, just tell me.
Well, when does construction start? When do they?
November 5th, so we've got all the other week in there, and we make it work. But the construction piece, they'll work around.
Okay.
They know what we're up to.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, so.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming. I will see you on Wednesday.
All right. Hi. You okay?
Yeah.
No, I'm at time. Bathroom? You can always go to the bathroom. You don't have to ask. Oh, go talk to Joe. You can always chase the speaker. It's fine.
Yeah. Chase him out.
All right, do you all need a break? Or?
Yes.
All right, can we take a 5-minute break? We have a late meeting. Okay, fine. You want to be here more?
I thought this was scheduled to be until 8:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
So
was
we're
scheduled.
scheduled for 8:25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just about to check. Okay, 5 minutes.
Yeah. So we're still we're 15 minutes in the schedule. Cool.
No, we're an hour.
We're like an hour.
All right. Well, you know what? This is why I'm out of that.
Yay, he's back.
You read it?
Well, I mean, I got the notification. I was used to it, and I was like, ooh.
Great.
Nice to meet you. Hello. How are you? What's your name? Rashad. Rashad? Yes, I am. Are you new senator? I'm a first year ambassador. Oh, you're a freshman. Gotcha. I saw your name tag.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
great.
So what's,
I want to go to one city now.
I drink way too much. Kyle, we have 10 minutes. 10 minutes instead of 5 if you want to do something.
I think I'm going to apply
It's like
for
getting-
Chicago.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I just
he's out.
go in the city like just get me.
Joe left, right?
Yeah, ship.
Oh, I just thought
A ship assistantship.
that was like the bike share
Because
stuff,
there's
if
no,
you're
like,
asking,
on-campus
Rashad.
residential
Huh?
kind of thing.
If you're asking about why
We'll
Kyle.
apply and see if we
Oh no,
can.
I know. I'm helping him with the plan.
Oh, really? Okay, I
So,
see you.
We'll see
I see you.
what they give me. I think there is some information system as well, tossed on online. So, worst comes to worst, if I don't, there's more options once I get out of grad school to work somewhere in the city rather than like find something that'll pay for everything. So, it was great though.
For that meeting.
I was like really happy.
I don't know.
I think being here is starting to take a toll on me, like negatively. I think I'm getting burned out from like UCC and just need a change. So it was nice being able to just walk somewhere and like sit down and like get out and get back. It was great, like fresh air and.
Except from November, March.
Yeah.
For spin?
Sucks.
I couldn't do anything.
Yeah. I love the cold.
I'll call him.
I enjoyed it. It was nice. It was chilly though.
Yeah.
You turn that corner down like a block and like all the sun tips and you're like. Jordan Harper was like. And I kept getting lost and he was like, oh my god. I was like, please don't hate me by the end of this. And he was like, I won't. When we got closer which was really great.
I'll see what time.
We got our personal statement. Jordan and I got close to it. Because we had never like really met or like connected much, but as like we have different trajectories, we're going for the same thing. So that was really cool. My personal statement's done. So like we redid that. We really redid her, guys. She got redone and she's beautiful now. It's like something I confidently feel like I can give. And I'd be fine like even putting it towards a grad app and like having nobody else read over it. So I don't know. It was just what I needed. It was a good change scenery, but it was a really good trip. I just like feel better, feel refreshed. Just a few more months. And maybe walking across that stage. Where did they do graduation? Here, at Sunday Center. Where did they do it before? Roll Farms Arena.
You're not allowed to talk about graduations in the crowd. That's the rule.
I was crying yesterday.
I cried out there in David's office.
No, about kids growing up.
No, stop.
We're talking about how kids snuggle with them.
I'll snuggle with you.
Like they were just talking and I was laying like on this couch and the tears were just coming down my face like this. They didn't even notice. And then I was like 20 minutes later, I was like, y'all know I was crying during when we were talking about that. They're like, you were?
Ew.
Yeah.
I just saw a tweet that says, your parents put you down once and never picked you up again. And I cried for an entire week.
Yeah.
Literally, every time I saw my parents, I was like, get away from me, I can't, I'm gonna cry.
Because you probably told them to stop picking you up.
Stop!
I mean, it's a 50-50 road there.
Stop.
They make you cry.
I know, but you do.
You're so...
Oh my god,
We were all she was crying because these kids grow up and she got sad and Brenda got sad because she saw a tweet that said, one day your parents put you down and never picked you back up. And then I told her that it's a 50-50 road. Like, you probably didn't want to be picked up.
They're so good.
It was a mess.
I'm gonna cry.
Wait, one day your parents pick you up and then never pick you up again? Is that what it is?
Yeah, like they put you down and they never picked you back up. One day you just
Stop talking about it, makes me so sad.
Like there was a last time that they picked you up.
Yeah, that doesn't mean they won't pick me up again.
That's the kind of attitude I need.
Jerry has the energy that I need.
That is correct.
I think my dad can still lift me.
See, it's not like that. It's like he carried you.
Right.
His dad was still carrying.
If anything, there may come a point when we carry our parents.
Stop.
Stop.
That makes me. Aging has been getting to me lately. Like I had like a 21-year-old breakdown last week as I thought about where I'd be whenever I was 50, and I got scared because I was like, oh my god, my body's gonna start changing. And we like in sociology talked about like old people and all this.
Is there a line outside of?
So,
I'm really starting to talk right now.
When I was 5, I started crying in school because they told me Christopher Columbus died. I was like, I don't want to die.
He's a piece of shit.
Sure.
Like, my parents were like, why are you crying? I was like, they told me Christopher Columbus died and I don't want to die.
Oh, if you're like people die.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive.
Right. You learn so much in that like 5-year period. I don't know how they handle it.
Yeah, the campus heat system was
We ate deep dish with provost routes.
Fantastic. That's what I heard.
Did Call tell you? Yeah, it was funny as hell.
I heard he skipped all the sessions for sightseeing.
Did he?
Yeah.
David yelled at me because I did that yesterday. David had to fly home early, and then so Sunday, me and Jordan like woke up and we went out to this coffee shop after we checked out and like did our personal statements all day. And so David told me, and he was like, "Well, how was yesterday?" And I was like, "I don't know, I didn't go." And he was like, "So we flew you out there to go to this and you." And I was like, "Yes." And I was like, "What are you gonna do?" And he was just like, "I mean, nothing." But he was just, and I was like, "I wanted to go do things and like sightsee and enjoy the area I was in." But yeah, no, provost rock was fun. He like closed out of his stuff. And I had like already bought like $27 for a bottle. And I was like, you couldn't pay for money. He was like, next time. I was like, when will there be a next time? Like, never. Like, always was fun. We were all eating at the same table.
anything.
Sure,
And
what?
then his breath smelled really bad, so I was like, you need to stop talking.
What class is this?
Poly.
Research
Doesn't really seem that hard.
It's not hard at all, it's
ready.
just a matter of
I
being
ready.
ready, which people don't like to do.
Oh.
And then I'm ready now, and they're stressing me out, and I'm just like, I'm not even taking this class anymore, and I'm stressed out.
I
And
do.
we're not even the first option. There's 8:30. I feel like 8 people want to be more.
They're doing so much better.
Like,
Like,
you said that was like all of us, and like how to use it like coding your binaries.
Yeah.
I was doing homework the whole time.
What a time! Does she know what old column
That was
looks like?
I was literally open that and be like, take this follow.
Yeah, like a system speaker column.
This is a photo of Provost Browse from the 80s.
Oh, can we make this an emote? Is this an emote on Slack?
Oh my god. It's the exact same haircut.
Can you do a side by side, please?
Yeah, can I check out our pros?
But
But,
Provost
like,
Ross is
3
one of
years
the
ago?
coolest people I've ever met in my life.
Look at this. This looks exactly like Colin.
But like,
Oh my god.
Alright, I need that to be a Slack emote.
the provost was like, "Thank you all for letting me not have to be in my suit and like be able to sit dressed down." He was wearing like Eddie Bauer and just like jeans, and we were all like, "Wow!" And he was like, "Great back, so like in contact. We don't only want to like talk like provost."
But are you ready for the first paper?
He's so sweet.
It's gonna be so much fun.
I love him.
No, I mean yes, but like at the same time.
Like cracking
But
jokes,
also
like,
no.
I was like, "Oh my god."
I'm ready for it, but at the same time, like, I'm not ready for it.
Yeah.
I feel like
There's one person in the 8:30 section, and she'll email me really late at night, and she'll like attach her number and be like, "Can you call me in a couple hours?" I'm just like, I'm sleeping. Like, don't.
Calling 11:30, yo, so we're having like nap.
I'm like, no, I'm actually very much asleep. I saw your email, but I'm asleep.
That's a whole mood. You know, I feel like I have like all the data that I need, but or like all the information, but it's just not like putting it together in a way that is eloquent and like sounds like a research paper, and not just like slapping facts down with no like real coordination.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot, and she tries to like trivialize it and make it seem like, oh, it's just this, and this. And I'm just like, you've been doing this for like 20 years.
Yeah, she makes it sound like, although reading the book, like, I mean, it really is all there. So.
It's all there. It's just
It's a slightly difficult to
I was wondering, where that's what used to piss me off, because I'm just like, no, it's not just do
It's
this,
not
do
yet.
this, and do this. You have to know how to do this first, and then write about it, and then move on.
understand and all that, but they do.
So I'm like, ready to
I'd like to apologize and ask for my class.
You should always smell so good when it just like isn't. Like I smell it and I'm like,
I've never had it.
love it, and then
It's over a meal swipe. I'm not doing that.
Only know what chicken is.
Yeah.
Everything is over a meal swipe.
I do that
the
sometimes.
meal,
I
like
get
tofu
lazy
and the meal deal chicken is
Yeah, tofu and the teriyaki chicken. And the teriyaki chicken's not
well,
bad.
it's teriyaki or it's like chicken and string beans or like there's like 3 different rotation types.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, but no,
Jalapeno
that's not
chicken.
bad either. It's like the teriyaki is not bad either. It's very the sauce is very saucy. So
Teriyaki is not bad. I've only had like the other 2 though. So.
Is everybody excited for Halloween? Any plans?
Halloween weekend, bro, in New York. Got an apartment. NYU people, country
Did you
people,
get orange chicken?
Stony Brook people, Columbia people. Got that stuff.
That broke boy stuff.
What time's that? Oh.
The 49.
Alright.
Isn't Halloween like?
Alright, same page.
Yeah.
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 Hey, Jordan.
What
are you doing Saturday?
Well, Halloween is 1 week. It's 1 week.
Don't ask me.
9 days, right?
I don't know. Should I?
Yeah, 9 days.
Yeah.
Because it's on Wednesday. It's on
No.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, Halloween is next week, y'all. Yeah, no. Halloween is gonna be great. Then after that, my weekends are so nice.
They stink. So they better be good.
I gotta cram all my work during the weekdays, but yeah. Maybe Philadelphia, food court competition, the wave. Gotta be living your best life.
Assuming.
Or next semester, I got myself to create my own.
I don't have a social life.
There it is.
Is it all died off?
I just have to not say this good question. That are one-on-one. Thank you. Hanging in there. I enjoy it so much.
Your first year bachelor?
Yes.
I think I remember talking to you. Have I talked to you before?
Maybe.
Okay.
One of the
I think you run. No, Reese.
No, I'm diet. Actually, yeah. I'm on
I
drugs.
have like
You know Reese?
I haven't met him before, but hi.
No, you're not first year. You're first year ambassadors.
Yeah, we never talked. Hi, Reese.
Hi, Brenda.
One more. I mean, there's like behind those.
I know.
Alright, guys, time. Alright, what's next on the agenda?
That was good.
I saw it.
Alright, who's presenting it?
For what?
Who is presenting it? Brandon, who else wrote this with you?
Oh, we all did. Me and Patrick and
Keon's not here.
Keon didn't write that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, resolution.
I think whoever wrote it, Brandon's presented something to the Senate. If somebody else is open to talking to the Senate, going through that process. I
So
would
either
encourage you
Liam
to.
or Patrick.
Pat, if you'd like to present the resolution, consider this your
Try to get people like
Vote
different.
it out.
I'll fill in a few.
Yeah, I mean, you can all stand up here, like, together. But whoever wants to, like, mainly present it and tell us what's happening. You gotta, like, pull it up and everything.
I got it. When you say and whereas, I expect a lot of gravitas in your voice.
Absolutely.
Alright, folks. Ignore 100,000 copies.
I got that together real quick.
Stop.
So, folks, this is SR 01-1819. The Senate resolution to address the need for institutional and structural improvements to student safety. Whereas SGA officers co-led the listening session on September 20th, 2018, have been communicating with administrators and have been collecting feedback from undergraduate students. And whereas SGA has heard undergraduate students express frustration and a loss of trust due to alleged institutional inaction and mishandling of sexual misconduct reports and perceived inadequate response from campus structures. And whereas the SGA Senate has a responsibility to promote and defend the interests and well-being of UMBC undergraduate students. Now therefore be resolved that we, the 2018 community members of the SGA Senate, recognize a need for institutional and structural support that promotes the well-being and safety for all undergraduate students. Be it further resolved, the stakeholder of student safety across UMBC, including undergraduate students, will address the shortcomings of current policy through a committee that will focus on campus safety. I just have questions about what's that.
How do you go about say move to amend?
Yes, Kai.
Oh, no.
I'm just tired of it.
There's nobody else.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, does that change?
Oh, instructing, whatever
Do you want to
process.
change it?
No.
You don't.
Yeah.
Be best. Who?
I'm not in trouble. She has to give me.
I'm lying Trump can do that? I'm sorry.
Yes.
So what is this SR formalization mean?
So basically, we're throwing the support of our Senate behind the creation of this committee and ensuring that we basically make it our duty to be a part of this committee and to assist with it. This is just a formal thing, not anything saying that we passed that, the Senate agrees that this is a priority that we have, something that we need to be doing, and that we will be active members of it.
Okay. Part of it is making sure that we outline specific, or like the need for specific stakeholders. We say undergraduate students, like right out there, but yeah, what else stakeholders? Because it wasn't like that before.
So are you asking us what stakeholders are, or or like what the stakeholders are, or?
No, we're kind of like building that framework, making sure that like the committee that comes out of this
Mhm.
and the subsequent committee make sure that we maintain the engagement of like a diverse body of stakeholders, including undergrads.
We don't want to exclude anyone, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it's open for interpretation to the point where if certain stakeholders need to be added, you don't have to then create new legislation.
I would offer, if it's possible for us to amend this document to make Keon an author instead of a sponsor. Since she was a part of your group, she didn't write your legislation, but she's still a part of the group. And that makes it more congruent with who was in the group. That way people ever want to go back, they know who was a part of that. Instead it looks like you three were, and that me and her sponsored it to bring it to the body. So I think for congruency of like group and inclusiveness, we can move her back up to author. I would appreciate that. What about you?
First.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So first we move to amend.
Yeah.
Look at Patrick. Okay. Patrick, it looked like you actually wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Just say something about it.
That's fair, that's fair. I mean, I was under the impression that she was no longer part of the body.
There's not been an official writing or anything yet, so she's still considered a senator as of right now.
I have a question actually.
Sure.
So, the sponsors, they're just here to like, I'm supporting this.
It's just the person that's like outside of who wrote it that's willing to like support it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're saying that since she was part of this group, that she should be an author, even if she didn't write any of it.
Yeah.
She was part of the group, so therefore, yeah, the group kind of made it together.
Yeah, I think like if you were to go back, let's say 3 years from now, if this was the like plan of org and they wanted to see an SR that was passed on it, this moving her up there would indicate more who was a part of the group legislatively rather than like me and her being together and you three writing it. I know the work went to you and I'm willing to acknowledge that and I appreciate that, but
Yeah, we weren't sure if we should put her on because she didn't write it, so we weren't sure if that was like a thing, but I'm okay to move it up. I just didn't know what the.
it'd be similar to like we believe you, like 2 people writing it and putting we believe you or something.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Brandon?
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One being, how does it work for the author to also be the sponsor?
It would be.
You can just leave me as a sponsor, you don't need to.
No, but like there's been instances in the past where like the speaker is the author and also the sponsor.
Normally if you're doing both, you ask somebody else to back it up unless it's like legislation for a senator or something.
Okay.
Because then it's your sole person that you're bringing forward, but for like legislation and stuff, you would want somebody else to be backing that legislation to be brought up.
So the amendment would be adding Keon's name to the author of the sponsor.
That's my second thing. Can I add a comma after listening session onto that amendment? So that on September 20th, 2018 becomes a clause. Or depending.
Wait, where? The first one?
The first one. Go at the listening session, comma, on September 20th,
Oh, yeah.
2018, comma.
Yeah, okay.
So,
So I move to amend SR 01-1819. Thank you. And I amend it to say, author Brandon William, Kim, Patrick Reed, Keon, me, and removing her from the sponsor line.
And also including the comma.
Yeah, we can just different.
Would they be 2 different amendments?
Maybe 2 different aspects.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't have to keep moving. We can just say them differently. Are all senators okay with the language that's used? Yes? Great. You can make the changes.
Alright. Oh god, what is this key?
Yeah, tell me about it. It's awful. It's the worst.
Tall, she got legs.
She's tall, she got legs.
This is something else.
Those fingers are-
This thing got all clicks to it.
Thank you.
Should author be authors?
Yes. Thank you, Jared.
That's one really big name.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's a thing where, yeah, I just have, my middle name is actually just Lou Keon, as you know.
Okay.
For the author, can we move for to be faster?
minutes to SRO 1819?
Yeah.
Is it too much?
Yeah, because we just made the changes, so we have to approve the changes then.
Yeah, no, you're right, yeah. Yeah. You seconded?
I second.
Great. Okay.
This time, our second.
So this is the document. Is there any conversation points, questions you all have left? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve SR 01-1819.
Second.
Move
There we go.
SR 101-1819.
Second.
Great.
Pass it.
Okay.
Wait, we vote?
No, you have to vote, y'all. Numbers under 4. Numbers under opposed. Abstaining, not present. And with that, this motion passes. Yay!
Our first SR. I'm excited. It's an important day.
Congratulations, Jill. Alright. Right now.
I don't think we need one.
Is that okay?
Huh? Yeah, I just ate it. I was like, I'm just eating it. I don't know so stuff.
I'd rather do with a Mac keyboard than that
And
keyboard.
Martinez. Does that bother you? Sorry. Oh, this is not meeting, isn't it? What's next on the agenda?
Yeah, Ming keeps like writing on the stream and retracting her message.
Who?
Yasmin. Girl, if you got something to say, just keep the message out there.
You got the right to
Yeah,
she can hear you.
up in the camera.
That's what I'm saying. Is she? I don't think so. I keep trying to like give her a voice looking at this chat, but she's like.
What is Jasmine in the camera?
No, she's like she might be the one watcher. She might have left.
Also,
That's a fair point.
thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
I just wanted to recognize that you're here.
It's like the hair.
This is so beautiful.
Brain's gonna literally.
Hey, you kind of same level.
Okay, office hour updates. So I want to go over some office hour stuff. Primarily, huh? I didn't hear. Oh, I have to go back. So I want to go over how, say you're going to miss your office hours, how that should be done within like the Google Calendar, which is like super important. Okay, so, ready?
Yeah.
You all know how to pull up the Senator office hour calendar, right? It gets added to your calendar as I've invited you to. So if you pull this up, I'm going to take mine off because it's a lot. So, say I can't make my office hours this Friday. But so I will not be here. I'll be in Pennsylvania.
So what?
So if you come into the situation where you cannot make it, you need to reschedule, et cetera, what I want you to be doing is you all have access to this calendar and to edit things. So for this one, I said no to it, but put in the original time slot. Ooh, that's not how you spell it. It's fine. And like make sure you give the reason. So I'm at a conference and I'm gonna say out. That way whenever people check the calendar, this calendar is also public access to people that are in the SGA office. There's a link at the bottom of our calendar and people are able to pull it up. So you wanna make sure that they're seeing that, and you wanna say this event for this one. So send it so that it sends it back to yourself, and you'll be able to, you'll have like record that you changed it. And that's if you need to cancel it. If you do need to cancel your office hours, please send me an email saying you won't be there. That way it doesn't affect my, since I evaluate you all, I put in there if you've been attending your office hours, and if you haven't, that can weigh in your SRC. So, but if you want to like move it, say I was going to do it like Thursday instead. I don't know if you all know that you can like pick a calendar that you put something on. I have a lot of them. You probably don't have this many, but you can like add, and Brandon, you did this, right? You can add it to the calendar.
I've been editing mine, because usually I'm like moving it down 30 minutes, I just changed the title.
But you can still edit it.
I can try it out.
Okay. Either way, so if you are like changing it the same day and you're not out, feel free to just mess with the times and resubmit it. But if you did want to do like a whole new one, be like during office hours, like reschedule, and then just make sure you invite yourself to it and just save it. And that's all you would have to do. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope that wasn't too confusing. But that way it'll keep a better track, and those people that are like trying to get in contact with you will always know what Brandon.
So we can access the calendar. And then also, do you want us to also invite you to an edited event?
Yeah. Yeah, I did say that last time, didn't I? Yeah, if you do change your office hours or you cancel them, whenever you are putting out or rescheduled, just put me on that invite so I'll see it and I'll get the prompt for it. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
Cool. Y'all are great. Okay, that's all I had.
That's great.
How are office hours feeling? Like, do you have any feedback or like things you dislike, things you do like?
I just like when I go in and Brenda's and Colin's office is closed and I can't access the computer. So
That's a big help.
That's a really big problem. You're right.
Yeah, second.
Brenda's like, no.
Sure.
Well, I like to get hot chocolate.
Do you give him money?
Huh?
What happened to our?
See, no. It's just, I fill it with water. It's just water.
What happened to our water heater, Brenda? Do you remember?
Oh, the heat's on.
Yeah. Do you know how we kettle?
Huh?
You know where the kettle is?
I haven't seen it.
If it's not there, call him. General rule.
Call him Sullivan.
I fixed it.
What?
I told him to microwave his water.
Problem solved.
Cancer.
Yeah, that's true. Alright, that's it. Cancelled. Other feedback, other things you want to address? I'm still waiting to fill senator vacancies until I send our document up to Common Vision, but once we do, we'll do that, and then we'll reevaluate office hours for the spring, so more secure schedules. So.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, I wasn't going to make you make your classes around your office hour schedule.
That was hard.
Yeah, that'd be trash. Okay, so if there's nothing else with that, I'm going to end that part.
That's a guy I'm lucky with
I have a comment on that.
Huh?
I have a comment on that.
Yes.
So, I just really enjoy seeing y'all at the office. If you don't usually go there, it's nice to see y'all. And if you want to make your office hours public, I'll make sure to try to have our one-on-ones be at those hours. But if it just says busy, then I can't know when you're in the office. I just do at my office hours.
What?
Our one-on-ones.
Like you don't know their office hours?
Oh wait, no, they're on there.
Yeah,
That's
they're
right.
on
Yeah,
there.
it's separate. But you should
Wow.
share. Wow.
Speaking of one-on-ones, I probably will not be able to schedule one-on-ones with you guys this month, solely because I'm traveling a lot at this end of the month, and I think it's unfair for me to be trying to cram calendar meetings on your calendars, like last minute, because that's not giving you all like fair time. If you have an issue with that and you do want me to find a time with you, I will. But if you all are okay, I'll just start that process starting November 1st. And I'll schedule them throughout the month, because I want to do them like staggered, not all in like 2 weeks. So if you have feedback about that, feel free to give it to me after the meeting. And yeah. All right. The big question: why are we here? What is it to be a senator? This is a conversation the Senate's been having for as long as I've been here. So it's kind of started to like travel with us, and year to year, people are having this conversation. I think it's a good one, because there's different answers every year. So, let's do, what else is on the agenda? Share whatever you need. That'll be fine. Oh, I forgot about this. Let's do, is everybody okay with us doing speaker reflection now?
What is that?
That's like, just like reflecting on Joe and Claire coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And then we can do a group activity, because that's what we're about to break into, is like groups.
Well, let's do it.
And I don't want to like break that up. Okay. So, What comments do we have, or thoughts, or questions?
Seems like great guys. I was like,
Well,
yeah, they seem very like into what they do.
Very responsive, especially Kali was really responsive to the needs of student orgs.
Yeah. What do we think about Okamoka and transit?
That would have nice transit. But we got some transit. Basically, like the whole situation of why the app is, for lack of a better term, very goofy. As a current, that was the dumbed down version, or the safe for live version. But I'm glad that he was able to like come in with like the voice instead of like gathering information. Like he just knew exactly. He knows the issue, so it kind of made me more reassured because like he understands that it's the issue that he is has been with the so he is aware of that. It's not just something that had just been brought up. It's like, oh, I realized.
Yeah. I liked that he was willing to like say things were kind of crap. Like he owned that instead of just being like other comments, feedback, thoughts, friends.
I have a question for you all. When we come up with a like problem on campus that we care about, like parking, like transit, and we get to these like 6-figure like price solutions, how do you feel? Does it faze you? Do you feel like disempowered?
So I feel like under any normal circumstances it would faze me because I mean I do with webinars that's like a lot of money. But at the same time, like if you think about it in terms of like for the additional fees for UMBC students, approximately 10,000 undergraduates and 3,000 graduates, like even $300,000, that's a $30 increase in fees, which I get that's like I think it's not for some people, but for the overall like fee and tuition, considering how much that costs, like I don't know how much an additional $10 to $30 is going to be the big bucket of things when our tuitions are like 50,000, depending on whether you're in state or out of state, like even 20,000. Like 20,000 versus 20,030 doesn't really seem like a big deal for me in terms of like being able to get another bus line that would help a decent amount of students. When it comes to parking, that's a different story because the garages, that's a bit more than that. And but then again, since it does affect all students, you know, it's like at the same time, yeah, I wouldn't want to pay an additional $50 to $100 onto my fee, but at the same time, I would like to have a place to park that's not lot 25 at like 10:30 when I'm leaving campus. So it's like it feels like so for the sum of the 6 figures, it feels like a drop in the bucket for the overall fee that is paid to attend school.
I feel like I don't have an issue with the number on a parking garage, but more like the environmental impacts that it has, because like parking garages are not good for green space or like the environment at all. And like that always comes to my mind. Both it's like expensive and it harms the environment more than helps it. And so that's where my head always is, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so I definitely have friends where they're going around, they can't find parking, they're debating whether they're going to just take a ticket, park somewhere that they're not supposed to, or, because a lot of them, at least for me, I know, if I have a class, and the only option is lot 25, I will just choose to not go to class that day, simply because I don't want to have to walk to lot 25 after class, especially once it starts getting dark, because there's like no lighting heading that way, and it really does not feel safe at all. It's a dirt path once you get off the main road. Like for a little bit, it's not exactly smooth pavement. The lights aren't bright. I don't feel safe there at all.
The part is like it'd be easier to solve that issue with like safety and putting sidewalks and lights than to build a
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the same time,
$400,000.
lot 25 isn't exactly super big either. But it's like that's just I see that from the issue of like finding a place to park that's nearby campus and lighting. I feel like it'll help more than it will hurt, especially if we keep growing. Consider that.
Is that what has been nicknamed Narnia? Is that what's been nicknamed Narnia?
Nope. We're not going to say that in the live stream.
I know what Narnia is.
You do not.
She went here.
You've been.
I did not go here. I did
But
not
like,
Narnia.
but like she went here and like graduates and stuff.
I did not go.
Candace, by you working here?
I did work
You went here, okay?
But I do know what Narnia is.
Why do you know that?
She
part of my job to know these things.
And we're not gonna let you anything from this live stream.
It isn't off the live stream kind of thing. We'll inform you.
Dude, it's crazy.
Alright, anyway, wrap back up.
Any other comments on that?
Yes.
Jerry, did you have a comment for one?
So I'm kind of of the opposing opinion to Liam. When I hear those big figures, like it does sound like a lot to me. I mean, $100,000 is not a small amount of money. That's enough to support like a large family, healthily, for a year. You know, so when I hear that number, I think like, wow. First of all, like, why does it cost that much? Like, when considering busing, and like that's the first question.
And
It's like,
carpooling
why?
and stuff. And carpooling and stuff.
Right, and then the second question is like, is that worth it? Because what Liam was saying was maybe it's $10 to every student, right? But I don't think that the right way to evaluate in addition to our tuition is to just say, oh, it's already big. What's a couple more dollars? You know, I think you have to evaluate the price itself. Because if you evaluate it against the larger sum, then everything's going to look small. Even $100 looks small. But those really, like the small amounts really add up. And like, I think it's worth considering whether or not it's worth it, you know?
Would it be better to consider it instead over the sum over like other parts? So like if we're paying this fee for a new transit line to like a comparable service that the university provides, would that be better from that perspective?
Well, I think we should just compare it against the utility that we think will be given out of the new addition, you know? So if we think that adding a new transit line, because it's a good example, right, is going to help a lot of students, right, and that the fact that it's going to help those students is worth adding $10 to the tuition of students, right? Just gauge it in its own scenario, you know, because I mean you could gauge it against comparable services, right? But not every service has the same utility as other services, even within the same domain. So I think you might get the most accurate comparison within just comparing against itself. You know, like what's $10 worth to everybody, or $100,000, or whatever you want to call it, and what's the line worth to students, right? I mean, that's just my 2 cents. What?
Unpopular opinion. If we had to pay for parking like UMD did, people would be encouraged to use transit more and to carpool more and to not keep their car on campus if they had to pay $607 to keep it on campus if they lived here. Anyway, that is my opinion.
True.
I mean, commuter students, they pay $314 annually to commute back and forth to UMD, and resident students pay double that. So from like a system point of view, I don't know. I do think like as far as like parking rates go here, it's much lower than a lot of other institutions are. And we pay a transit fee, but it's not equivalent to other places. And we also contribute to like campus transit and stuff like that as well, and other things. And so, I don't know, it's always made me think of like, if there's no consequence to people having their car on campus if they live here. And there's people that have their car on campus that live here and only go home like twice a semester. So their car is just sitting there in the lot for like ever. Yeah. Anyway, I do want to bring it back though to like Joe and Collier and that conversation. Parking is a little suffering. So if we don't have anything else, I'd like to move on.
One thing real quick.
Sure.
I do worry about his vision for Open Micro. The gentleman that works for Transit, Joe. Transit. Just because he seemed very like I haven't heard the same buzz about Open Micro. Like unfortunately, and I not that I've like been looking for it, I just haven't heard it though, like naturally. And so I really hope that like he's not trying to like we're not going to put something out there that's not gonna be able to stand on its own. Because in my opinion, like what I sort of in Jared's mindset of like we're gonna have this thing down on our views. But I think that like a lot of students like don't really care about Arbutus like at all, for a couple of reasons. And I think one of them is like the population there, like just does not care about us a whole lot. Like they really do not give a crap about us. And this is kind of illustrated by like just kind of their attitudes towards the school we've seen in the past. And like I think even interactions we've had, I've had and I've heard of people having in Arbutus with like the locals and stuff who are like not always too friendly. And then also like it's a weirdly situated spot because like I think a lot of people, if like you're gonna go to coffee, there's a Starbucks that you could walk to versus one that you have to walk down the street to. And I am worried that it's like not gonna end up being what we want it to be. And so I kind of want to, especially to like you and Leah, or who's one of the, who goes to AMs? Who goes to the AMs meeting?
Probably in this body, Brandon and I have the most involvement with it.
So just make sure like that there's gonna be a way to like really make sure that we're like gauging exactly what the student body needs there, because otherwise like, because when you think about that, like I've never in the 2 semesters I've been here, right? I've never seen anyone like a student like walking down the street to Arbutus, even like when it's nice out, even in the summer, or like summery months, summery weather. I just never seen that happen. And so like to expect that all of a sudden there's gonna be a line out the door and hundreds of people in Arbutus, and like we're gonna create like this college town. I think like there's more to it than just like saying here's a transit line, here's a place to go, now go. It's like I think there's gonna be a lot more that you have to really foster to like make this a success. You really want to say something? Is there like?
Well, is it okay if I respond to some points first,
Yeah, sure.
and then I'll call on Jared and Kyle? Cool. So I think if the other students were here, you probably would have gotten the same feeling from them. Like Michael is very dedicated to the project. They all are very dedicated to it. But I think Trevor has like shared, he's just like shyer, so he doesn't speak up as much as Joe does. So I think when we went down last semester and painted, we actually got some community members that had wandered in and like gave us a lot of positive feedback about like being really excited that this is happening. Also remembering that Okamoka used to be a hookah lounge, and that like the community hated that. Like they didn't think it brought in like a great group. For like that didn't match the feel of the community, and like a coffee shop more does for right now, right? Like and in no way. So Okamoka has a big like motto they always use of like we're in their backyard, they're not ours, and like they were here before we were, and so they try to really emphasize on not displacing the community that they're putting things in, and that UMBC is like being involved in, because that's like gentrifying the entire community. So and they don't want to do that. And so I think like one, it like gives you a place to like sit, and they're really big on like trying to figure out how to bring community members and students together. It's like the start of a college town, so this is like going to be like the first thing that is really jump-starting this community, and will bring like more revenue in and just give people kind of like a refresh that it needs. Yeah, it is going to take work and ensuring that it keeps going, but that's why they've been talking to stakeholders, whether that be us or being at like the President's Council meeting with like Rogowski and his people, to making sure people have buy-in. And this is a project of the universities now, because they have stake in it, and then all the hiring process goes through the university, and it's procurement through the university. So they have investment. Starbucks is packed. So also Starbucks is on campus, and that was a big conversation that for people that are always here, it's a good place to like get away, and it's not too far. Like it's not inaccessible. For example, have you been to Atwater's?
Yeah.
So like that's another like rustic kind of feeling coffee shop, but it's further away, like it's not as accessible. Some people like that feel to just be able to get away, but they will be collecting data on like what times are best and how it flows to the community. But also like there's gonna be transit buses, and they're gonna try to get like bike racks down there to encourage that. I think they're going for a smaller community feel, not like a banging out the door. Like they've made comments multiple times that they understand it's gonna take them a few years to like break even, but that for them, like as all communities, be considered a nonprofit. That's how it's listed within like the state, I believe. This is being listed as like a nonprofit, which gives them more leeway than it would be like a business. So I hope that answered some questions. Yeah, I think that helped a little bit. I hope to eventually have like Okamoka be in here, but I know they want buy-in from people so that they feel that. But I also think that's a better reason that we should all become invested, because there are students become invested, and they see it as a project that's worth something. Because I think that the message we send by what we choose to go to and what we choose to be involved in speaks louder than things. So, Jared, Kai, do you still have questions? And Patrick, do you have any responses? Anybody else have questions?
We kind of, okay.
Kai?
I just like to like agree you and add on to this like step in the right direction. I don't think it's necessarily going to become college town right away. It's going to 20 years, but it's like a step in the right direction. So that's what I gathered from the video.
But yeah, so one thing also that he mentioned was that with Okamoka, they're gonna have to create a system that circulates students quickly from UMBC to the Arbutus area and back. So even if Okamoka doesn't necessarily work out, what's gonna happen is you're gonna have an easy way to get to and from Arbutus from campus quickly. And that's probably the biggest thing that's going to need to happen in order for this to be successful, is just to reduce that barrier of getting there. Because like you said, nobody walks there, because it's just not worth it.
Maybe like the middle of the summer, but not like it's cooler, hot.
We all rip out of the car.
I've walked there.
So I think that the big focus, once you have that system in place where students are going into Arbutus and getting back, and they can do that very efficiently, then that's where it starts to develop into a college town, because students are like, hey, let's all go into Arbutus tonight and get dinner.
It's like a culture change in its own way. Yeah.
And they're not staying on campus for everything anymore.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's the big vision of it.
Now, I don't ever think UMBC's college town is going to be equivalent to like a Towson or like an Uptown or something. It never will be. But like, we also know the culture of UMBC is different than this. So, Kai, yes, I see you.
So the reason why I ran out to talk to Joe, because I wanted to introduce myself, because I think the system could be like a bike share we can implement. So.
I think that would work.
Yeah, Okamoka's been tied in on some bike share stuff and some like electric scooter stuff that died.
It'd be tied to the electric scooter.
They did, that's why I said it died. Okay, cool. I plan on having, I think it's important that a project that we've given money to, as it gets more ground, like Joe will send pictures and I'll just forward those out, but also having them try to come in every few months and like talk to us. So I'm hoping to hear back from them. We're gonna go down there and discuss it. I will be sending out a doodle poll to other weekends that work for everybody. So I ask you that you respond back to those so we can give those a joke. But on the topic of guest speakers though, are there other people you all want to talk to?
My comment is I'm heading to the Oklahoma management meeting, so the 8 a.m.s are for like people who are actually doing the day work, and then the management meetings are once a month, and they're more like the overall how the university connects in, like the big picture, like that stuff. So I have that meeting this week, so I can come back with more updates. If you have any additional questions, I can bring them up during that meeting.
Per usual, if you feel like attending any of those, just let us know. We can give you that information.
Actually,
It's Wednesday from lunch too.
Okay. Other guest speakers you don't want to talk to? I need to reach out to Chart Wills. Because I'm going to try to have that in Trump.
I'd like to.
Huh?
I'd like to talk with Jess and then other people from like the leadership committee that came out of the suits. Yeah, yeah. And having them talk with us, and then also like independently, like a women's center.
We. Yeah.
What specifically about the women's center? Like, what do we want from them? Because they're a two-person group, so I know it's harder for them to make these meetings than it would be for Chart Wills, for example.
I was actually going to say we.
So I just want to make sure if I reach out, we have tangible things to speak to them about.
I think we will leave you as well. We might be a lead the.
Same with them. Like, what tangible things do you want to hear from them?
I was thinking, since they're so tied to what's been going on campus, it behooves us as Senate to be like communicating with them and building relationships and figuring out how we can support each other.
So Dr. Young is the point person for that overarching group.
Oh, for the leadership of China, okay.
So if you were to do outreach to that group, I would say to do it to Dr. Shelley.
Dr. Young come to a meeting yet?
Okay, so I'm hearing that we want to know how to support them. We don't know if we need to bring them in.
The only reason I said, but like, I think it might be good, like beneficial, not just good, beneficial to bring in, is to like, show that even as the rest of campus is starting to like, kind of like, not a joke, but to start to be like, it's more like light, take it more lightly than we are, and like be like, oh, we're still with you on this, and we're still, and we'd like to know we can do that work with you. Like, let's sit down and like, get some stuff, like, what we can do to support you, like, instead of just like, info.
I think for the interest of like Senate time, can somebody reach out to them first to like see where they are, and if they have things that they want to come and talk to us about. I just don't want to waste their time with a 15-minute meeting of like, hey, what can we do? And they're like, this stuff. I feel like for guest speakers, I want us to be having like actual deeper conversations about things on campus. And so, for both the benefit of us and them. So can somebody reach out to We Believe You and ask them if they'd be interested or how we can best support them? Better? Thank you.
It's also important to make sure that they believe that what's being done on campus is sufficient, and also that I think that it would be valuable to get their input on the committee as far as what they would expect.
And then, like, you know,
If that's something we're talking about, then I don't mind bringing them in. I just wanted to have tangible things to be like talking about.
I've been like informally coming to you today, just about like some offhand stuff, but I haven't actually been able to meet with them in like two or 3 weeks, just because it's, you know, we get pushed, like, well, it is much of season now, welcome to it. But I think bringing them in the future and like actually saying like, I guess, again, like in a formal setting, not just like informally, like, oh, hey, this is what we're doing, like, this is what we're doing, like, let's see what we can work together on, and like, how we can support you best with that.
Since that's only to one, since it's only the one initiative group though, should that conversation happen in like your weekly meeting first and then bring it to the Senate bigger?
That's schedule a meeting this week and talk about that.
Yeah.
Work something out with us and the appointments, find out what's happening.
Okay, so do that first and then get back to me on gauge interest from them if they have things they want to come present or talk to us about, or get opinions from. If so, then let me know. We'll put them on the agenda. That's not an issue.
You can schedule a meeting there, see if we can get one come out, have time to do before midnight.
With the women's center stuff, I know it's CSJ this week, so they're going to be bogged down for like the next week. It's Critical Social Justice Week.
Yeah, it's a
CSJ.
big thing that they're doing.
I can't hear you.
It's a big thing. One center, I think a bunch of other groups. I know Honors College got them about that too.
Yeah, it's like it's women's center, a bunch of partners.
It's a big week of social justice and making sure that everyone can see that.
Go out to events if you can support. It's really great work you're doing.
Wear your badges. So for my thing, I was talking with Gary on RAC renewal, and I think it might be useful to have it sooner rather than later because they're kind of at an impasse on. You want to say something?
Gary's on our list. We're just waiting with everything that happened with the rack. We're giving him some time.
Yeah, because I think he mentioned, I had a meeting with him today, and I'll show that more during my HGC updates. But talking about what the students, kind of like the student opinion on the future future of the RAC, because there are different options that can be going forward depending on how students also feel about UHS and that move. So I can get more into that during my SGC updates, but I think it'd be.
He was on the list of calling him.
Good guy.
Alright, it'd be useful to have the document, and then preferably sooner rather than later. Just because since the RAC's renewal is on pause now, it's good to get an input before they continue down the path that maybe the students don't necessarily want. Because he's definitely looking towards us as like that voice of what do the students really want on campus and for the future of the RAC and UHS.
Great, other people?
Who have come in the past?
A lot of people. Julian Simpson with facilities management to talk about the master plan. Have people come talk to us about the strategic plan. I can reach out to Provost Rouse again. Love him. Mean it. Who else? We've had Campus Card come in and talk to us about red cards and the data that they gather.
Heather Bishop with the library review would be worthwhile.
What's her name?
Heather Bishop. Just because they're updating the library and stuff.
Yeah.
Like right now, like only I've been to some of the meetings, but that's the only student input that they've had, I think.
Speaking of campus cards, or like apps, I think it'd be good to meet with them too, because I know Colin wanted to get back on like trying to promote the red card discount, that kind of stuff. I think it might be interesting to hear from them on like how that's been going and what we can do to help them out if they want to continue that program stuff. So that's something they would, but not necessary, but just a possible thing if we have time.
Jack Seuss in the past, with Do It has come in. Right, he's Do It.
Yeah.
He's come in before and talked to us. I don't remember everybody. There's a lot. One year was like every week there was a guest speaker. If you guys think of more people, let me know.
Jordan, did you have
Yeah, my hands up.
Oh, I thought you were playing with your hands.
No, no.
Go ahead.
Has like anyone from Residential Life ever come here?
Yeah, a little bit. We've had like Laura Mariella come in and talk about a larger UMBC program that was happening 2 years ago, but we can have people come in if you're interested.
I don't know. Yeah, just Residential Life has never come up here. So.
Maybe since like the programming they do.
Yeah, I was just
is
wondering
very
what.
selective. But I added them to my list. If something comes up that I think would be beneficial for the Senate too, I'll pull them in. Cool. All right. Anything else? No? Great. We're doing it. Okay. All right. So what I want you all to do, I think we're gonna count off. Yep, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so we're gonna count off, and then you're gonna get into like small groups and talk about. There's like a few questions I have for you all, and we're gonna like do small group and then share out. Feel free to like leave this room if you want. I'll give you the time that you need to be back if you want like a change of scene. If you want to use the board, you're really welcome to. Do what's best for y'all. Okay, so.
Two.
This one.
Two.
Do you want to? Okay, so if ones can group up, twos can group up. If somebody can write down these questions though. So you have 4 questions. All right, who's a 1 is gonna write down these questions, and who's a 2? You're a 2. I need a 1 to write down these questions.
I'll write them all.
You already want me to run it? Yeah, I usually take them down that way. You will have them. Okay. 1. What does it mean to be a senator during Senate meetings? or SGA business? 2, what does it mean to be a senator outside of SGA on campus? 3, what is the reason I ran for election, comma, want to be here, and continue to come back? 4, what do I want to get out of being a senator, and what change do I want to make? And I'm going to give you all like 15 minutes. So if you can be back here around like 8:20, 8:25.
Choose, are we in here or out there? One, sorry.
Let's be back by 8:25. So you all can go wherever. Just make sure you're back here because the meeting will start back at 8:25.
Let's go to the far side.
Where?
Go to the far side. Fire slashes.
I don't think I've ever had like a meeting.
Not that I know how.
You can just say stop